OCO, and welcome to the 2023 Cherokee Nation Deputy Chief Debate hosted by the Cherokee Phoenix. I am Tim Landis, and I have the honor of serving as tonight's moderator for both the Deputy Chief and Principal Chief debates. First, I want to thank our audience members for their attendance and our viewers for watching the live stream through the Cherokee Phoenix YouTube channel and Facebook page. I would like to begin our event by inviting Cherokee Nation National Treasure Dennis Sixkiller to the podium to provide tonight's blessing.
Will you stand, please? You thought all this, didn't you? We get all the going hands good over the least, go you, cause I all deal with the legally. You go there now, and I don't know high school on Tokyo. You do, you go up there, telling on the land. You can do that all this on it. Can I on 2 years? Can I do you do? I said to this, used to when you get there, need to like or did like that. And it's gonna do test is gonna you go what gets there, young, that's good. Good, newly, use yes, now let it on the years. New toss a yet get it, tell what's the deal and get it. Let's go in the garden, you're down there, do need to start. Can us go on your heads in the garden, or these are like until like you're seeing and then or the heads are in school on it. In the nest go to the new heads, the hood, or the deal and get it. Now, oh God, so yes, no, that's yes, I said, he goes on to like yes. New good, or you lose over that, so that's good out there. You got snake guest, you walk to the side. You ask, do that here, you go ahead, see, what's their hand, so like what you want, skitty, sketch, and go ahead, says, yoga, care says, or get nasty, ask for the high. See, is a theoretical, so yeah, then who they do, or his course, I know who was the jail, and gets in gone to the new one, you see. Jesus come in, do not good, because that's all least this guy. Amen.
Wado, Dennis. Next, I would like to introduce tonight's debate participants who are seeking the office of Deputy Chief of the Cherokee Nation. Order of candidate introductions and answering of questions was established by random drawing before tonight's debate. The bios for candidate introductions were composed from information submitted by the candidates. First, I'd like to welcome Mr. Bill Pearson to the stage. Residing in Oologah, Mr. Pearson is a retiree with 30 years experience as a Department of Defense acquisition professional and also a Navy veteran. Since retirement, he has consulted with the Department of Defense and NASA contractors to support their compliance efforts in business and quality management standards. As a contractor, he provided logistic support to the Department of Homeland Security's Unmanned Aerial Vehicle Program. Pearson serves on the Oologah Town Board as treasurer of the Northwest Fire Protection District. He is also chair of the Rogers County Republicans and vice chair of the 2nd Congressional District Republicans. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bryan Warner. Living in Sallisaw, Mr. Warner is the incumbent deputy chief and was elected to the office in 2019. Previously, he served on the tribal council representing District 6, which includes part of Sallisaw. His civic and volunteer experience includes serving on the Sallisaw City Council and as a local youth leader in church. He also coached youth league wrestling, football, and baseball for several years. In 2009, Warner took a position as a science instructor at Carl Albert State College. He was promoted to director for the school Sallisaw campus in 2017. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Biology and a Master of Education degree. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Walkingstick. As a Tahlequah resident, Mr. Walkingstick served on the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council as a representative for District 3 from 2011 to 2019 and served as chair of the Education Committee from 2013 to 2019. He currently owns and operates Stick Built, LLC, which is focused on building custom homes, remodeling, and rental properties. Mr. Walkingstick holds a graduate degree in school administration from East Central University. He earned his bachelor's degree at the University of Central Oklahoma, where he played collegiate basketball. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Miss Meredith Frailey to the stage. A Locust Grove resident, Miss Frailey spent more than 20 years in public service. The former Cherokee Nation Tribal Council member served as Speaker and chaired the Rules Committee, and she developed decorum policies for council meetings and travel policies for council members. She was also an advocate for women's rights at the YMCA. Her work experience includes interim CEO in manufacturing, oil and gas international relations, and land management, banking executive oversight, high school athletic coach, municipal attorney, and Episcopal Church ecclesiastical judge. Ms. Frailey has also served as a county commissioner. Before we begin, let me review tonight's rules and procedures for our Deputy Chief debate. To begin tonight's debate, each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for opening remarks. After opening remarks, each candidate will be given 90 seconds for answering each question. After each candidate has answered the question, each candidate will then be allowed 60 seconds for a rebuttal. We do ask candidates to refrain from challenging each other, but if one candidate does challenge another, then we may provide an additional 30 seconds for a rebuttal of the challenge. Also, the lights on the table indicate status of time. Green means your time is running. Yellow means you have 15 seconds remaining. And red means your time has expired. After the questions, candidates will be given 2 minutes for closing remarks. Due to time constraints, we ask the audience to hold their applause until the debate concludes. We also ask audience members do not use flash photography and to mute or turn off your cell phones. And if you leave during the debate, there will be no reentry until the intermission between the Deputy Chief debate and Principal Chief debate. In addition to questions composed by the Cherokee Phoenix staff, 2 of the questions that will be asked tonight were submitted by Cherokee Nation citizens. Without further ado, let's begin. With opening remarks, we will begin with Mr. Bill Pearson. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for attending tonight and participating in our Cherokee election process. I'd like to give special thanks to my wife, Linda, who has been my strong supporter for 44 years now, and she's been a real trooper during this process. The Cherokee Nation, as we know it today, is not the Cherokee Nation of our parents or our grandparents. The Cherokee Nation of today is a much more complex and vibrant organization than we've experienced in the past. It's a multi-million-dollar business with many facets, many tentacles that extend across not only the 14 counties of the Cherokee Nation, but also the globe, because we have Cherokee citizens around the globe. So why do I want to come before you tonight and request your vote to be your next principal or your next deputy principal chief? And that reason is because I think I bring many assets. As you heard in the introduction, I spent the majority of my adult life in business management, dealing with major contractors throughout the United States and in foreign countries as well. In addition, I have brought some of the experience from a small community. Coming from the Ulaga-Talala area, I've had the opportunity since retirement to work with both the city council as a trustee, and I've had the opportunity to work with our fire district. The Cherokee Nation, as I said, is a complex group. It spans multi-million-dollar businesses to rule America. So those are the talents. I think I bring the spectrum from big business to small communities to the job. Thank you.
Mr. Warner, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Well, CO to God, it's just such an honor to be here. First and foremost, I want to thank the Cherokee Phoenix for allowing us this time tonight for this debate. I want to give thanks to my wife, Mako, my 3 boys, Caden, Luke, and Clayton, who are at home watching. Daddy loves you, and just so very proud of the accomplishments that you young men are doing. You know, in 2019, I was elected into this position, not knowing what we would be facing in the coming years. Looking back on this, there was one thing that I was really sure of, though. That was the tenacity, the ability, and the capacity of the individuals that have ran the Cherokee Nation for years. We have a great group of employees at the Cherokee Nation that serve our citizens each and every day. We have partnerships that are valued across the Cherokee Nation Reservation and outside our Cherokee Nation Reservation. During this time, we've seen economic growth during a time when other places were going stagnant because of either the pandemic or the situation at hand. It is not something that we do alone each and every day. As your deputy chief, there's been a great team that's been beside me, in front of me, and around me that has ensured that our citizens are met where they're at each and every day. And that's what we really want to continue to do. And it's been an honor to work alongside Principal Chief Chuck Hoskin Jr. His administration has made many strides to make sure that our future will be rooted in Cherokee values, traditions, culture, but also be able to stand the test of time and what's coming. Folks, there's one thing sure of that we're always certain, is we don't know what the next day will bring, so we prepare today for the future generations. What don't?
Please hold your applause until the end of the debate. Thank you. Mr. Walkingstick, you have 2 minutes.
Sio Nagad, Dagwadoa, David Walkingstick. I've had the opportunity to be in the Cherokee Nation for 42 years. I grew up in the heart of the Cherokee Nation, and I had the honor and privilege to attend this school that you guys are sitting at today. And I had the opportunity to serve on the tribal council for 8 years, but it was because of the following we had here at Tahlequah Sequoia, which started this whole journey. The convictions that I've had throughout my whole life, seeing our people in their element, that we haven't made it yet. And those convictions stirred me to serve 8 years on the tribal council. And then in 2019, you, the Cherokee people, asked me to run for chief of the Cherokee Nation. Your voice was stolen after I was kicked off 2 days prior to the election. In this campaign that myself and Cara Cowan Watts is running is to make sure that you, the Cherokee people, have a voice, that our employees have a voice, and that our Cherokee elders and our Cherokee youth will have a tomorrow and a future. And it's an honor to be here before you tonight. Thank you guys for showing up. For you guys that are not informed about the Cherokee Nation, I hope you learn more, because I want our voters to be responsible in their decision making. Right now, the current leadership does not reflect our Cherokee people. And I will assure you that we will bring Cherokee Nation back to the Cherokee people. Don't.
Again, please hold your applause to the end of the debate. Ms. Frailey, you have 2 minutes for opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank the Cherokee Phoenix for hosting this debate, and thanks to all of you that are out there watching. I know you're probably thinking, what in the world is she doing up there with all those guys? Well, they're each very nice gentlemen, and I respect all of them. And further, my campaign is not against them. My campaign is for Deputy Principal Chief. I believe my 20 years experience in tribal government and tribal business qualifies me to succeed the Principal Chief if ever needed, and also to serve as the principal advocate and advisor to the chief, particularly in strategic guidance, not only to the chief, but to the chief's cabinet and all government officials if needed. Our government is one of the most important aspects of our lives. So I think the central question before us today is, what kind of tribal government do we want to be? And what kind of future can we all build together? I have grandchildren, and that question is important to me because I want to be part of a government that invests in my grandchildren, that invests in you, and provides opportunities for my grandchildren and for you, and respects the rights of all citizens. You have to judge us as to who can shoulder the immense and awesome responsibilities of the Deputy Principal Chief, who can put into action plans to make your life better. I hope I can earn your vote on June the 3rd. I'll be accountable and work hard for the Chief and all of you. Thank you very much.
Our first question for tonight is, what will you do as Deputy Chief to uphold your oath to protect and promote the Cherokee language and culture? We will begin with Mr. Pearson.
I will honestly admit that growing up in the Ulaga-Talala area, that I did not hear the Cherokee language spoken until I was a freshman in college here at Tahlequah Northeastern. That is a situation that should never have existed. I think that the program that we currently have are very good. I think that we need to follow up on those. I think that the speakers program, the internship program is very good. I've been very fortunate that I've had some mentors in our culture and our language. Alice Wilder of Rogers County, Lee Keener of Rogers County, and also Ron Goff have led me down the path to better understand our culture within the Cherokee Nation. What I do know is that within our Constitution, every office holder that is elected by the Cherokee people is required to preserve and protect the Cherokee heritage, the Cherokee language, and their Cherokee culture. Those are things that I think are of paramount importance of any candidate that should be on the forefront of their term in office.
Mr. Warner, what will you do as Deputy Chief to uphold your oath to protect and promote the Cherokee language and culture?
Well, currently, I want to say that we have some of the best folks in our language and cultural programs, and we want to make sure that we continue those programs. As Mr. Pearson said, those are good programs that we have because there's good people there. We want to make sure that the individuals that are out there that want to learn, that want to understand, have that ability to understand. Just as we take this strategic approach and we take a look at what is needed as we expand our immersion school, as we have done in the Greasy area, and as we look to strategically do this in other areas, we need to make sure that we have those accredited teachers. And I believe currently we have a cohort in the MAP program that is built with accredited teachers, and we want to make sure they have that opportunity to pass that knowledge on. We want to make sure that people not only understand but have the respect for our culture and our language. You know, today, as much as we look at everything, how can we get outside of these boundaries? Today, there's more schools across Oklahoma, across the country, that are teaching the Cherokee language. We want to ensure that our colleges and our institutions have that opportunity, and we want to get behind them and put those resources there. But our main resources in that Cherokee speaker for their health, for their continuity of life, and for their quality of life, and we will continue these efforts underneath the watch of our Creator. Thank you.
Mr. Walkingstick, what will you do as Deputy Chief to uphold your oath to protect and promote the Cherokee language and culture?
I grew up with my family speaking our language and running the hallways of the Cherokee Nation complex. And people speaking in Cherokee and laughing, but those days are gone in the complex. It's locked down, and metal detectors, and people are walking on pins and needles in our complex. But our language is really important, and it's who I am today. Currently, the millions of dollars that the tribe spent on the Durbin Filling facility at $27 million, our language is not only in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, our language is in our communities. It's in Nycut, it's in Vale, it's in Kenwood, Lost City, Cherry Tree. That's where our language is at. Putting a monument of yourself on a highway does not justify taking our language serious. The relevance is putting our language in our communities and putting those millions of dollars in resources to provide jobs for our elders and our speakers. But if we took our language so serious, our immersion teachers are the lowest paid teachers in the state of Oklahoma. Under our leadership, that will change. Or don't.
Ms. Frailey, what will you do as Deputy Chief to uphold your oath to protect and promote the Cherokee language and culture?
Before we think about how we preserve our language and culture, I believe we need to discuss why we want to reserve it. Article 31 of the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People gives us the right to protect, control, and maintain our culture and our language. Language matters spiritually, culturally, emotionally, and the written and spoken words are an art form and represents our way of thinking. It cannot be undervalued, as it is the preservation of wisdom, traditional knowledge, and expressions of art and beauty. We have to make sure we don't lose this, because when language is preserved, the traditions and customs continue living in the hearts and minds of those who understand it, and which allows us to express our understanding of spirit and of nature. When we lose our elders, we lose knowledge and wisdom that can't be replaced. And with so few remaining fluent speakers, I'd like to see us form a language and culture commission, not committee, commission of our fluent speakers, because they have a deeper understanding of what will be lost.
Ms. Frailey, you are now out of time. You'll have more. Mr. Pearson, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I couldn't agree more about what Ms. Frailey was saying about the rural areas, also with Mr. Walkingstick about the rural areas as well, that it needs to be perpetuated. We're losing an alarming number of our native speakers every day, every year. I would hope that we could look into seeing, are we producing enough of those speakers to replace those individuals? They can never be replaced. That vocabulary is a problem, but we should be striving to at least match that number, and we should be following up on how well we are training those individuals. A year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, how well is that language being preserved?
Mr. Warner, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yes, sir. It is true. Our language is key to us being much more than a government, because that's what makes us Cherokee. If you look up and down our hallways, you still hear the Cherokee language speak. The gentleman that blessed us with that blessing this morning, his office is right there in that complex, and I see him often walking up and down, and I hear these things out of his mouth. I want you to understand that under Chief Hoskin and administration and myself, with the work of many others, we created a Department of Speaker Services that meets these speakers out in these rural areas. We put together an infrastructure with CCO community organizations that have the ability, through our investments and their knowledge of the language, to be able to perpetuate that language, not just to preserve that language. We are acting with our public health department currently to make sure that we are working together, because our language is key to resolving the issues within each and every department. It holds the solutions for a lot of the problems of today.
Mr. Walkingstick, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
The Cherokee language, I like to see the Old Testament translated in Cherokee before our elders and our Cherokee preachers before they pass. I like to see that written, and I like to see that a part of the history of the Cherokee Nation. But, you know, we go to the Heritage Center as dilapidated and the amphitheater that was going strong. You know, once we lose our story, we lose our tribe, and history tends to repeat itself. But right now, with the language program they were talking about, there's a lot of segregation that takes place in that speakers program. There's a lot of people that understand Cherokee that can't speak, that grew up in Cherokee-speaking families that can't get those services. In the Master Apprenticeship program, we have full-bloods and traditional people that actually use the language that are being denied to be in that program. We like to increase and expand that program so we can keep our language alive and there is relevance. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Well done.
Ms. Frailey, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I'll continue. We have smart elders, and I'd like to see them design a program to preserve our language and, in effect, our culture, because they already speak and think our language, and they live by it.
Our second question was submitted by Tawana Ross Levan from Holbert, Oklahoma. She asked, what do you see your most valuable role as being if elected deputy chief? And what strengths will you contribute to this role? Mr. Warner, we will start with you.
Well, thank you. I see one of the most valuable roles is to always be ready, willing, and able to step into the role if something was to happen to the principal chief. Some of my most valuable assets to this is the ability to make sure that we have the right people at the table when the tough decisions are being made, to make sure that we have the individuals that have the vision and the knowledge to make sure that we take that strategic, measured step each and every time. And the things that I really believe in is empowering those people that you work with day in and day out, because they have valuable resources. They have talent that the Creator give them. I just need to make sure that we make sure that they're lifted up, because they need to be diligent, as we all do together, as we continue to work together, to be diligent, to scrape out that talent, to use it. There's so many different things that we do. There's value in our initiatives, there's value in our programs, but we need to make sure that we are at the tip of the spear when we initiate these programs. We need to make sure that we assess them as we go along, and we need to make sure that we close the loop on so many things. And that's why in the next 4 years, there's so many things that have been started and have been initiated by individuals that work in that department, because there is value in our employees. They have that institutional knowledge that we all need to get behind and make sure that we put our best foot forward and always be ready to stand in front of anybody that wants to attack and degrade our sovereignty as a sovereign nation.
Please hold your applause. Mr. Walkingstick, what do you see your most valuable role as being if elected deputy chief? And what strengths will you contribute to this role?
To be less of the least of all of God's people, and to have humility and to replicate and identify with our Cherokee people, and being approachable, where I have an open door where our Cherokees can come and visit and talk about the needs of what's going on. I believe in shared leadership. I don't believe in a dictatorship. I believe that we should have the best Cherokees that are merit-based, not loyalty, but merit, coming to the table. And if they don't agree with us, that's fine. That's part of democracy. That's part of growing. That's how you become strong, is putting people around you that are better than you are. And as deputy chief, I want to have a front row seat of providing a housing program and a world-class healthcare center. I want to build 500 to 1,000 homes, and that's what I do right now, I build homes. But I have the ability to do that and to bring that to the Cherokee Nation. I don't want to be a figure. I want to be at the table with Cara Cowan Watts as we move our Cherokee Nation forward, and we provide a tomorrow for our people. We don't.
Ms. Frailey, what do you see your most valuable role as being if elected deputy chief? And what strengths will you contribute to this role?
According to the Cherokee Constitution, the deputy chief is the second in command of the executive branch and part of the team that creates the tribe's overall vision, mission, values, and beliefs. The deputy chief's assists in devising strategies and formulating policies to ensure goals and objectives are met. And the deputy also serves as an advocate and advisor to the principal chief and has the ability to provide strategic guidance, not only to the chief, but to the chief's cabinet as well, and can confidently step in and fulfill the awesome responsibilities of the principal chief if ever needed.
Mr. Pearson, what do you see your most valuable role as being if elected deputy chief? And what strengths will you contribute to this role?
Well, as my counterparts have said here, it's the principal advisor to the principal chief. That's the role of the deputy chief. Also standing in the wings should that individual be unable to perform those duties. The deputy chief should be the first one in the room with the principal chief whenever they're establishing their strategic plan for the tribe and even the tactical aspects of it on how they're going to accomplish that. So what would be my role? I think there's three phases to what my role would be. Obviously, with a master's in business administration, I understand the business world. I understand how business should be conducted. Secondly, I understand, because of my partisan politics involvement, I understand the state capitol. We're Americans, we're Oklahomans, and we're Cherokees. I think I would be an asset in working with the chief and working with the state capitol and trying to resolve some of those issues that we face today. I think the fact that I also serve on the state virtual charter school board, that I have a good understanding of what's needed. In the Cherokee Nation today, I refer to it as a trifecta. We have health issues, we have education issues, just to name a few.
Mr. Warner, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
We all understand our valued departments, whether it's healthcare, human services, career services, human resources, all of our partners in our departments. We need to make sure that they have the ability to always come to see me. And in the past 4 years, they've all had that opportunity. We have federal partner relationships. The deputy chief must see the value in these federal partner relationships so that we can set on these tribal advisory committees to make sure that we are pulling in that much needed funding that we've had since the time of Chief Mankiller and before that. We need to make sure that we also get behind our business leaders to increase that dividend, those contributions that help push more tribal dollars in there so that we can get outside and see and help more citizens. We always have to take that principled approach when we sit in there and have guiding principles that help guide our mission and help guide us into the future.
You're out of time, Mr. Warner. Mr. Walkingstick, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
The first thing I like to do in his role as deputy chief is to rescind the 104% pay raise that the elected officials gave themselves. I don't believe that elected officials should be becoming millionaires off the blood of the Cherokee people. That is one thing that Cara and I are adamant about. Also, the chief's mansion, we want to turn that into a domestic abuse shelter. There's already gates and cameras and drones up there already in marshals, so we want to make sure that we do that. Also, we all want to be a strong advocate for our employees. I want to make sure that they're not walking in fear. We want to cultivate a spirit of shared leadership. We want people to not fear and walk on pins and needles when they come to work. When Chief Baker came in 2011, he fired 400 employees, and he cultivated the spirit of fear right off the get-go. So under our leadership, those chains will be broken. We don't.
Please hold your applause. Ms. Frailey, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
The first thing I would like to do, if I am fortunate to be deputy principal chief, is to sit down with the principal chief and devise strategies and formulate policies to ensure our goals and objectives are met, because I think whatever we plan, we've got to plan for the future. like 100 years from now, and plan that we will be self-sufficient, not dependent on anyone, but self-sufficient in the next 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and leave a government, leave a nation that our children and our grandchildren and future generations can enjoy and respect.
Mr. Pearson, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I would agree that leadership determines the culture of any organization. I think that that's paramount for any manager to try to improve the culture. In terms of federal activity, I've worked at the federal government level. I understand that. I've been there. The things that I would recommend to the chief, should I be elected, number one, I'd like to discuss the red flag laws with our chief. I would also like to discuss our current election laws, Title 26, to see if we can improve those, to improve some of the issues that we've had for several election processes that concern the absentee ballot. I think the absentee ballot, personally, is the curse of the Cherokee Nation election process.
The third question was submitted by Brian England from Oswego, New York. He asked, what do you believe is the most important thing you can do as Deputy Chief to improve the state of the Cherokee Nation? Mr. Walkingstick, we will start with you.
Improve the state of the Cherokee Nation. One is start prioritizing our Cherokee people as being number one. The hundreds of millions of dollars that we're spending on steel and concrete is worthless if we don't have people to put in them. We have a 480,000 square foot hospital in Tahlequah, Oklahoma that is half staffed. We're about to break ground on another $400 million hospital. And the Tahlequah will never grow into that facility. I think we do need another facility, but the outrageous spending that's been going on with, the $10 million gymnasium in Kenwood, $10 million in Marble City, where there's 180 people. I think those are good causes to put those gyms in those communities, but who's getting the money? Like, we're not going to spend $10 million on a gym in Kenwood. And, and if so, let's divide those resources, that money, let's put it in all the communities. So all of our Cherokees could have access to have an ability to have a healthy lifestyle. But seeing our people in their element, when I see elected officials give themselves a $1.4 million pay raise, and I see tarps on our Cherokee people's roofs, we have not made it yet, and that's a kick in the front teeth. Under our leadership, we will rescind those raises, and the chief will not be a millionaire off the blood of the Cherokee people.
Please hold your applause until the end. Ms. Frailey, what do you believe is the most important thing you can do as Deputy Chief to improve the state of the Cherokee Nation?
Although the impact currently is unknown as a result of the McGirt decision, in my opinion, it's an area of opportunity for the Cherokee Nation. Since our reservation status has been reaffirmed, we've gained more leverage, in my opinion, in negotiating with state and local governments, particularly as it relates to oil and gas development, construction issues, environmental, and other land use regulations. And further, in my opinion, we should demand the federal government affirm our authority to tax and regulate commerce on our reservation and eliminate the inequity of dual taxation. Our status also allows us to do things that local governments cannot do, and we could do in a manner that help those local governments, particularly in rural areas. Another area affecting our nation relates to our economic security. Although we appear to be financially stable, the national or federal debt of $32 trillion, and with the consideration of raising that debt, I believe is a great threat to our economic security. It should be of concern because our nation is 74% federally funded,
Ms. Frailey, you are out of time. Mr. Pearson, what do you believe is the most important thing you can do as Deputy Chief to improve the state of the Cherokee Nation?
I think we can actually go and talk to the people in the various districts within the Cherokee Nation, within the 14 counties. What I've observed in the census report that we have, Adair County, which is a significant area within the Cherokee Nation, has lost 14% of its population in the last 10 years. Nowata County has lost 11%. Sequoia County has lost 7.5%. That's not a very good economic indicator that things are going well in the Cherokee Nation. In fact, there's only 3 counties of the 14 that have actually shown a positive growth: Rogers County, Wagner County, and Tulsa County. The others have either had zero growth, negative growth, or minimal growth whatsoever. Cherokee County itself, you know, we're not all Tahlequah, we're not all Muskogee, we're not all Pryor. In Cherokee County alone, the growth rate in the last 10 years has only been 0.19%. Now, if you'd visited just Tahlequah, you would think that was a booming county, but it's not. I think that the other thing that we could do is that Lieutenant Governor of Oklahoma tells us that the 3 main industries in the state are energy, aviation, and recreation. This is an area that's ripe for recreation. I think that we've underutilized that. I think we need to redirect some of that big money they're spending on and mortar and steel.
Mr. Warner, what do you believe is the most important thing you can do as Deputy Chief to improve the state of the Cherokee Nation?
To continue to protect our people, to continue to protect our valued language and our culture, to continue to perpetuate our programs that are driven and ran by our employees that value their citizens, that are their family each and every day. When you take a look at what we do in public health and wellness, the idea of getting behind these communities where they've been affected by the years of having such a tough time with the things around them, by taking that 7% out of that third-party revenue that our patient advocates work so hard and tirelessly to get behind these communities, to make sure that we build people, because yes, it is valuable, the time that we've spent improving our infrastructure these last 4 years, improving our ability to put people to work, improving our ability to build people up and to put money into individuals so that they can seize that opportunity, because that opportunity is important to them. That opportunity is something that they can take, and they have that free will to turn that opportunity into a plus for their family and decide how they're going to use that for their family unit. We have to maintain the integrity of our compacts that are so valuable, that put so much money into programs that provide each and every day for future generations, not just the generations of today. Folks, we have to stay on top and make sure that we look out and see out on that horizon, but we make sure that we go down into the trenches where our people are, because that is where the ideas culminate. That is where leadership starts.
Mr. Walkingstick, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
It's not about where you're going, but it's how you get there. Right now, we have a tribe that has pay-to-play politics. You know, the March Financial had $800,000 with Hoskins and Warner, and $580,000 of that came from your casino and those executives and those board members. We need to get that out of play. We have people right now dying because we don't have funds for contract health. On the campaign trail, we visited many people that have cancer that did not have insurance and were denied contract health. And some of those are not with us today. But currently, also getting a bipartisan government. We are the DNC. We do not want to replace the RNC with the DNC. We want to be bipartisanship, and that's the beauty about being Cherokee. And also, we want to diversify our businesses outside of gaming. A $450 million casino in Tunica isn't going to benefit the people in the Cherokee Nation. Well done.
Ms. Frailey, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
According to what I read, we are really busy at the Cherokee Nation. We have a lot of projects ongoing. And I would sit with the chief and devise a long-term sustainable plan, because if not, in a few short years, we could be experiencing what we experienced when I was on the tribal council a few years ago, and we had to establish a rainy day fund because the federal government was ready to shut down. And I don't want us to ever get in that position again. So I think I could really help this chief, because I'm big on long-term planning. I think I could help the chief devise that sustainable plan.
Mr. Pearson, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I would agree that we're in a current state of an oligarchy within our Cherokee government. I would also state that crony capitalism has taken over within CNB. I would look at the economic impact report that just recently came out that says that we've done an increase of 1.5 billion in the last 10 years in the impact on it has in Oklahoma. But I again go back to Adair County and Cherokee County, places that I've visited, and I've looked at community buildings that are very, very elaborate. And across the street, an individual's plumbing doesn't work. Another individual, the roof leaks. Another individual can't get their prescriptions filled. I think it's time for us to reevaluate and go to the communities and really understand what the quality of life means to our rural communities.
Mr. Warner, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yes, sir. Our valued partnership with our business arm, C&B, is more leveled off between gaming and diversified industries more than ever. We've tripled what comes in the legislative act that has required a certain percentage of that money to come back as a dividend to the tribe since 2019. There's more money coming in. There's more contract health dollars. There's more people getting help. There's more opportunity out there for people to seek things that are helping everybody each and every day. Folks, what we have to do is maintain a level of spiritual groundedness as we move forward together. As we continue to work together, we understand that we need public health and wellness. We understand that these wellness centers, these community groups, that's where we've met our people. That's where we understand, that's what we've wanted because we've listened, not just with these ears, but the ears of our heart. And we maintain balance between logic and emotion as we move forward each and every day.
For the final question of the night, if elected to the office of Deputy Chief, what will be your priorities over the next 4 years? Ms. Frailey, we will start with you.
My overriding priority, obviously, is sovereignty. Because our sovereignty is so fragile, I think it's important that our leaders protect that so we're not relegated to secondary status in Oklahoma. And we don't want to be just merely a cultural group with no further status or protection. Sovereignty to me means we've created a safe space with the inherent right of self-governance and self-determination to chart our own course without outside approval. It gives us the original power to provide good governance for our people and power over our land, especially since the McGirt decision reaffirmed our reservation status. That's the overriding priority. Other priorities are health and housing, transparency and accountability in our government and in our businesses, safety as a result of the McGirt decision, prevention of dual taxation, superior service to our elders, excellent opportunities for our youth, and protect our environment. As Chief Seattle said, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors.
Ms. Frailey, you are out of time. Mr. Pearson, if elected to the office of Deputy Chief, what will be your priorities over the next 4 years?
I would have to start with education. One of the things that I've seen recently from the Department of Commerce is that currently over 30% of the jobs that exist in Oklahoma today require some education past the high school level. Unfortunately, only about 17% of our current graduates are able to do that. The projection for the next 5 years is that number is going to increase from approximately 33% to 70%. The issue that we're seeing is that many of our students that are graduating are not getting what they need in the high schools that they're attending. If they're eligible, if they're making 21 on the ACT or 1010 on the SAT, they're getting into college, but they're having to take a lot of remedial courses to accomplish and to further that education, which is causing a lot of dropout. Those are the type of things that we need to be tracking. Those are the type of things that we need to be helping the local schools. I think that we also, in terms of education, need to look at adopting some kind of reward system, a bonus. The Cherokee Nation gives a lot of money with tags that we collect every year, but I think we ought to look at those good performing schools and try to give them extra money for their performance. So it's a performance-based situation that we need to look at within our education system.
Mr. Warner, if elected to the office of Deputy Chief, what will be your priorities over the next 4 years?
The priorities are simply put, it's the people. It's the initiatives that we've started over the last 4 years. It's the programs that we started. It's getting behind and empowering our employees so that they can be that ever-loving arm that reaches out, meeting Cherokees where they are currently, whether that's education, whether that's healthcare, whether that's in a time of need where our valued human service representatives reach out each and every day at the front lines and meet people where they're at. Those are the values that that's been instilled in each and every one of us. To make sure that we close the loop on projects. There are multiple projects that are underway currently. We have to make sure that we assess. We make sure that we know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and how can we continue to do things better. Because together, we will make sure that these things happen. Whether it's that valuable health care, whether it's those dollars that come in from our Cherokee Nation businesses, because those individuals that are Cherokee, they work hard each and every day. And we want to make sure that we keep increasing the amount of money that comes from C&B into our government so that we can have those valued tribal dollars. To make sure that our public health and wellness has the ability to protect the overall and make sure that people understand that our language is one of the most important things. Every dollar that we spend on language, you cannot calculate that return on investment because it holds sacred what it is to be Cherokee, and it will protect each and every one of our valued departments, our people, our programs, and our initiatives moving forward over the next 4 years.
Mr. Walkingstick, if elected to the office of Deputy Chief, what will be your priorities over the next 4 years?
The only thing that's tripled is the pay raises of Chief Hoskin's Bryan Warner. When you get $1.4 million in your first term, that does not reflect the Cherokee people. And Cara and I want to rescind those pay raises, and we want to give our employees a pay raise. Our employees haven't had a pay raise in 8 to 10 years. If most, it's been 3%. And with inflation, the way it's going right now, in 8 to 10 years, that is unacceptable. The employees are what make our Cherokee Nation strong and what makes us grow and move forward. The next thing is opening the doors of the Cherokee Nation complex. We want an open door policy, and we want to be your voice. Diversifying businesses outside of casinos. Buying a small business that has a return on investment of 20, 30% that provides jobs in our local communities, that is growth. You know, Scripture says where there is no vision, our people will perish. Cara and I we have a vision to move our Cherokee people forward, and I want to have a tomorrow for our people. Our behavioral health. How many of us have family members that are they're opioids or meth or other things that's going on in their life? Cara and I want to get those behavioral health facilities inpatient in the Cherokee Nation. We also want to get assisted living centers for our elders so they don't have to leave their communities. They can stay at home, and that's cultural inclusion. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to bringing Cherokee Nation
You're
back
out
to
of time,
our
Mr.
people.
Walkingstick.
Thank you, sir. We're done.
Ms. Frailey, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
As I was going to say earlier, Chief Seattle said, we don't inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our youth. And my vision for our youth as our next generation of leaders is to lead full and healthy lives, to have equal access to opportunity, and to draw strength from their culture, and to inspire one another and give them the tools to make our plan for tomorrow a reality. We could collaborate in a mutually respectful manner with the Oklahoma Advisory on Indian Education, the State Department of Education, the Bureau of Indian Education, and adopt standards and begin teaching Indigenous studies as early as the 5th grade. And also, we can guide our
Ms.
youth.
Frailey, you are out of time. Mr. Pearson, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I would agree that we need senior assisted living facilities. I think that we need to invest a significant larger amount of money within centers to care for our elders that is going on out there. I couldn't agree more that we need diversity within the Cherokee Nation. We should not leave a legacy of smoke shops and casinos. This is a situation where we should be modeling other tribes to see how well they have diversified. A lot of people have said that the casino business is plateauing. I don't believe we need to spend millions of dollars within Mississippi to try to prop up those dollars that are coming in to CNC and to provide dividends.
Mr. Warner, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, I want to say that it's very important that we understand how our government works. It's very important that we understand how the legislative body operates. It's very important to understand the programs and the initiatives that our Human Resource Department has already come when we take an equitable approach when it comes to wages, whether that's gender equality or whether that's taking a look at a raise in pay to understand what is wage compression and how do we combat that, because our Human Resources Department has been at the tip and at the front lines of that each and every day to initiate to take care of these issues that stand before us. We want to make sure that I think it's important that we understand the value that we have on each and every one of us and what our people are doing in those trenches every day. We listen to their concerns. We listen to their ideas. My door has always been open. Each and every individual that has ever wanted to come and see me at that office has. And I make sure each and every day that it is a safe place, because you'd be surprised.
Mr. Warner, you are out of time. Mr. Walkingstick, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
The scripture says, bad company ruins good character. I like Deputy Chief Warner. He's a good man. But the people he's associated himself with do not reflect us as Cherokee people. If you don't vote for me,
Hold your applause.
do not vote for them. Because right now we're at a turning point in the Cherokee Nation. We are more desperate than ever that we turn back to a time in history when Cherokees are helping Cherokees. Our tribe is in a time of healing with our employees. Our HR department has bullied and fired and has not done the right thing with our Cherokee people. Our employees are the forefront of our tribe. And as Deputy Chief of the Cherokee Nation, I will reflect you, the Cherokee people. We don't.
Mr. Warner, I want to give you the opportunity to rebut the challenge.
Yes, sir. Well, as a believer in Christ, I understand what respect, honor, and dignity is when we look at things that we think about others and how we convey our thoughts and everything. I always wish each and every individual the best. I try to get behind that individual, find them where they're at, and make sure that we lift them up, no matter who they are, no matter what their thought is about any other individual. I think it's healthy when we understand what are Cherokee values, what are Cherokee lifeways. Honor, respect, builds integrity, builds in character.
Mr. Warner, your time is up on the rebuttal. Okay, hold your pause. Hold your pause. We're almost finished. That completes the question and answer portion of the debate. We will now give 2 minutes to each candidate for their closing remarks, beginning with Mr. Pearson.
Thank you. Again, thank you everyone for attending and participating tonight, and especially to the Cherokee Phoenix for putting this on. As I've stated or tried to state, my credentials, my experience, my training that I would like to bring to you, the Cherokee people, to provide a different point of view, a different set of eyes to look at what's actually going on within the Cherokee Nation. If elected and advising the next chief, I would not recommend that we turn the lights off. I would not recommend that we close everything down and start from scratch. Don't burn it down and start over. I would advise that we look at what's there. What is working, what is not. Something may be efficient, but it may not be very effective. I think that we need to do a forensic audit throughout the Cherokee Nation. I think we need to evaluate the policies and procedures. And I commit to you, not promise, but I commit to you that we will do a thorough evaluation of what's going on within the Cherokee Nation. Those people that are writing checks on your bank account, where's that money going? Is it being effectively spent? And is it being spent that does the widest possible good for the Cherokee people? I think that we've got some relationship building to do within the state government of Oklahoma. I see that in the last 12 years, we've become a very partisan organization. I think that we need to return to the days when we were a nonpartisan group, take care of Cherokee business, take care of Cherokee elections, and not worry about what's going on in the rest of the country or what's going on in the state of Oklahoma. Thank you.
Mr. Warner, you have 2 minutes.
Well, first and foremost, thanks be to God for each and every one of you for being here. And I want to thank the Phoenix. And Tim, thank you for doing a fine job today. My family and friends and relatives of Cherokees that are out there. Chief Hoskin and I will continue to protect our sovereignty, continue to perpetuate our language. We will meet people. We will go out and look at and take a look at how can we address the poverty? How can we address our needs, our gaps in healthcare? How can we look to education as our ancestors did some time ago, where they invested 70% into the first male and female seminary here in Northeast Oklahoma? Lord, how can we keep continuing to take a look at a measured, strategic approach at the things that we do, the things that we have been currently doing, the inclusivity of how we do these with our employees. It is of the utmost importance that your deputy chief continues to have a principled approach when he walks into any meeting. It is of the utmost importance that your deputy chief is willing to meet partners that are out there that want to figure out a way and how they can perpetuate the things that we do at the Cherokee Nation. Folks, our families, our communities, our individuals, they're searching for opportunity, and we will continue to provide that opportunity. We will continue to get behind our business partners at CNB. We will continue to get behind the things that we have done since time immemorial, which is protect our language, protect our sovereignty. We will continue to help individuals understand what it is truly to be self-governed, what it is to have the ability to go out there and to fight each and every day to make sure that our sovereignty is intact, because it is that self-determination that makes us Cherokee. And folks, I promise you, and I take this humbled approach, I thank you for your time, I thank you for your talent, I thank you for your dedication to the Cherokee Nation. Wakto.
Mr. Walkingstick, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you. I pray that each and every one of you pray for a spiritual discernment between what's light and what's dark. And right now, you're gonna see the Chiefs debate here in a little bit. Right now, you're seeing the Deputy Chief race. But the most important thing is that we elect leadership that is going to reflect a tomorrow and a future for our Cherokee elders, our Cherokee youth, our Cherokee families. I am genuine. I am not a showman. And I don't want you guys to be snowed by people that are smooth talkers. We need someone in that seat that knows our people and has seen them in their element and has grew up within these communities. I am the soil of our Cherokee communities. And I hear everything that's going on, and I want to be a solution. If you believe in the survival and the heartbeat of the Cherokee Nation, we need change. And I say that out of love and respect, but we cannot go down this journey of becoming a corporation. We are no longer a tribe. We are a Coca-Cola, a Pepsi. We need to get back to being Cherokee and being a tribe. When we're putting $50 million into a governor's race against one of our own, when we put $450 million into a casino in Tunica, all these hundreds of millions of dollars, our life is no better now than it was 3 years ago when we got that $3.2 billion. I want you to know I am on your team. And
You're out of time, Mr. Walkingstick.
well, thank you so much.
Ms. Frailey, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
In just a few short weeks, we'll be able to put an end to the status quo and vote for more positive change. You have to judge us as to who can shoulder the immense and awesome responsibilities of the Deputy Chief, and who can work with the Chief to help devise a plan to invest in our people, and who will help the Chief determine the resources needed to meet the healthcare demand to which our citizens are entitled, regardless of geographic location, and who can devise a plan to match those entitlements to the obligations our government is required to provide, and who can help the Chief establish reforms to ensure accountability and transparency and responsive government, and who can help the Chief prioritize our elder housing and healthcare needs so they can lead healthy lives and live comfortably the rest of their days and can continue to provide guidance in their communities, and who can help the Chief protect our youth by focusing on creating opportunities so our children can make the most of their God-given abilities, and who can help the Chief invest in our employees by improving the job environment so our employees can thrive and want to come to work every day. I hope you'll give me the privilege of establishing fundamental change and helping our Chief. I'll listen, and with 20 years experience, I know how to plan and I know how to provide solutions to the changes needed and work with the Principal Chief to build the future our Creator intended, a future all of us can share in peace. And make the good choices, help the Chief make the good choices as we leave a government.
Ms. Frailey, you are out of time.
Hold on.
Wado, candidates. Okay, everybody, we can all applaud now. Please applaud. And with that, the 2023 Cherokee Nation Deputy Chief Debate hosted by the Cherokee Phoenix is now concluded. We will have a 15-minute intermission before we begin the Principal Chief Debate portion of our evening. Please stay tuned, and we'll be back momentarily. Wado. OCO and welcome back. Let's go ahead and take our seats. We are set to begin the 2023 Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Debate hosted by the Cherokee Phoenix. Again, I am Tim Landis, and I will serve as tonight's moderator. Once again, I want to thank both our in-person audience for their attendance and the online audience for watching. We just completed our Deputy Chief Debate and look forward to presenting the Principal Chief Debate. Without further ado, I would like to introduce tonight's debate participants who are seeking the office of Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation. Order of candidate introductions and question answering was established by random drawing before tonight's debate. The bios for candidate introductions were composed from information submitted by the candidates. First, I would like to introduce Ms. Cara Cowan Watts. A resident of Claremore, Ms. Cowan Watts served on the Tribal Council representing parts of Rogers and Tulsa counties from 2003 to 2015. Her career in advocacy, including educating, mentoring, and encouraging youth in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics through programs such as the American Indian Science and Engineering Society. She has conducted more than 200 scholarship workshops for Cherokee Nation citizens across the United States. Ms. Cowan Watts holds 3 engineering degrees and has a corporate engineering background at publicly traded companies. She also runs her family-owned construction company and operates a small ranch with her husband. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. Chuck Hoskin, Jr. Living in Veneta, Mr. Hoskin is the incumbent principal chief holding the office since 2019. His administration has prioritized home construction and ownership, healthcare, employment, and the preservation of culture and language. He has spoken or testified on behalf of the Cherokee Nation at the United Nations and in Congress, and serves on several boards and commissions, including the U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary's Tribal Advisory Committee. Before his election as principal chief, Hoskin represented District 9, and after redistricting, District 11 on the Tribal Council. In 2013, he was confirmed as Secretary of State in the administration of former Principal Chief Bill John Baker. Next, I'd like to introduce Mr. David Cornsilk. Residing in Tahlequah, Mr. Cornsilk is a former research analyst for Cherokee Nation Registration, where he served 12 years. He has also served as editor of the Cherokee Observer and Stillwell Times, and as a lay advocate, practiced Cherokee law in the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court. Cases 1 dealt with freedmen citizenship in Allen v. Council, committee appointees claiming political retaliation in Hathaway v. Smith, and the enforcement of term limits in Cornsilk v. Hembry. Cornsilk was appointed to the 1999 Constitution Convention by the Cherokee Nation Supreme Court and helped write the current Constitution. He has also been invited by universities around the United States to speak on Cherokee issues. Lastly, I'd like to introduce Mr. Wes Nofire. A resident of Tahlequah, Mr. Nofire is the current representative of District 3 on the Cherokee Nation Tribal Council, winning election in 2019. He has often spoken during council meetings against expenditures he believes are wasteful or opaque. In 2021, he sponsored a resolution requesting the audit of COVID-19 emergency relief funds and called for a formal hearing by the Tribal Council. Also in 2021, Nofire voted against legislation that led to a pay raise for elected tribal officials, and in 2022, Nofire filed a lawsuit against the passage of the same legislation. Nofire is a Tahlequah area realtor and a former professional boxer, once holding a national ranking. Before we begin, let me review tonight's rules and procedures for our Principal Chief debate. To begin tonight's debate, each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for opening remarks. After opening remarks, each candidate will be given 90 seconds for answering each question. After each candidate has answered the question, each candidate will then be allowed 60 seconds for a rebuttal. We do ask candidates to refrain from challenging each other, but if one candidate does challenge another, then we may provide an additional 30 seconds for a rebuttal of the challenge. Also, the lights on the table indicate status of time. Green means your time is running. Yellow means you have 15 seconds remaining, and red means your time has expired. After the questions, candidates will be given 2 minutes for closing remarks. Due to time constraints, we ask the audience to hold their applause until the debate concludes. We also ask that audience members do not use flash photography and to mute or turn off cell phones. And if you have to leave during the debate, there will be no re-entry. In addition to questions composed by the Cherokee Phoenix staff, 5 of the questions that will be asked tonight were submitted by Cherokee Nation citizens. Without further ado, let's begin. We'll begin with Ms. Cowan Watts for our opening remarks. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Tim, and you're doing an excellent job.
Well done.
Sio Nagad, Dakwadoa, Cara Cowan Watts. Hello, everyone. My name is Cara Cowan Watts, and I am running for Principal Chief of our great Cherokee Nation. I'm here tonight with a background that lends itself to this position. As a former council member of 12 years from 2003 to 2015, as a small business owner of a construction operation here in northeastern Oklahoma that does deep foundation construction, my 3 engineering degrees, including mechanical engineering, telecommunications management, and then lastly, my PhD in biosystems, which focused on our water quality standards around total phosphorus for our running waters that are culturally significant to Cherokee Nation citizens. And then my marriage of almost 18 years to Doug Watts, who's a Wyandotte Nation citizen and also descended from Confederated Tribe of Grand Ronde. But I want to thank those people in my life, particularly my husband, Doug, who's at the back of the room, with my mom, Beverly, and my brother, Brett, and my many Cherokee families who are volunteering to make David Walkingstick and I's campaign a success. But thank you for being here. But why are we here? Why am I running? Why am I excited about serving as the chief of the Cherokee Nation, as the next chief? Because we must restore a priority focus on our Cherokees, on our Cherokee families. They must be first. We can see by the actions of the current administration and the last 12 years of those in leadership that our Cherokees have not been put as a priority in our own nation, but money has been spent outside of the Cherokee Nation. We have to look at sovereignty. We have to look at how we defend our people, communities, land, waters, and we have to respect our elders by meeting their many needs. And those are the reasons why I'm running for Principal Chief. Wado.
Again, please hold your applause till the end of the debate. Mr. Hoskin, for your opening remarks, you have 2 minutes.
Well, OCO, I want to thank the Cherokee Phoenix for holding this debate. Tim, thank you for your service in this debate. I want to thank my family. Family is the most important thing to me. Apart from my role in life as a father and a husband and a grandfather, serving as chief of the Cherokee Nation, though, is the most important thing I do. I treat it that way. But I could not do it without the support of my family, particularly my wife, January. I want to thank the citizens of the Cherokee Nation. It's been an honor of my life to represent you as chief. I give you my best effort each day. I'm running for re-election to serve you. Now, lots happened in the last 4 years. Voters did not know when they elected Deputy Chief Warner and I that we would face together as a tribe unprecedented challenges, from a deadly pandemic to attacks on our tribal sovereignty, the likes of which we have not seen in over a century. But 4 years ago, you placed your trust in me and Bryan Warner. I'd like to think it was because you saw something in the Deputy Chief and I in terms of our intelligence, our dedication, and our experience that would put us in a position to respond to any circumstances. And so despite so many unforeseen challenges, the Cherokee Nation is today in a stronger position it was when we took office. Under our leadership, every Cherokee citizen who asked for assistance got a $2,000 payment during COVID. No Cherokee Nation employee or Cherokee Nation business employee missed a paycheck while the rest of the world was shutting down around them. Our healthcare system has expanded. We've got more doctors and nurses working today than any other time in Cherokee history. We have more contract health dollars than any other time in history. Ladies and gentlemen, we are prepared to lead. We have faced the test. We have a vision that will work. We need to keep moving in the direction the Deputy Chief and I have us moving in. And we respectfully ask for your vote on June the 3rd.
Mr. David Cornsilk, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Thank you very much for putting this on. You're doing a good job. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. My name is David Cornsilk, and I am asking for your support, your vote for the office of Principal Chief. I believe that the Cherokee Nation has been derailed. I do think that there are many good things that have happened at the Cherokee Nation. I'm not saying that there are terrible things that have gone on, but there are things that have happened that I believe the Cherokee people need to know about, and those things are violations of this document. This is the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation. I've gone through here, and there's little pink markers through here, and those indicate where we have gone off the rails. My background is I helped to write this document. I served on the Cherokee Nation Constitution Convention. I served with this gentleman right here. And so these words are the words of the Cherokee people, and they are the words that we as leaders should go by. And I believe that those words are being ignored. Those words are being destroyed. And so what I want to do as your leader is get back to the basics, get back to the blueprint that the Cherokee people have given us as leadership to follow. If we don't do that, then our sovereignty means nothing. Thank you all very much for the opportunity here, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you all may have after this is over with. I'm a very friendly person. Many of you know me. Many of you think you know me, and some of you know of me. I'd like to get a chance to get to know all of you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wes Nofire, you have 2 minutes for your opening remarks.
Well, and CO to everyone who is joining us here tonight. I'm Wes Nofire, and I'm running to be your Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and a proud conservative Christian Cherokee. I was born and raised proud to be a Cherokee by my mother and father who taught me the rights and the wrongs to live by. From running the creeks of Caney Creek to Sequoia High School to being a professional boxer and most recently serving as your tribal counselor for District 3. You know, I left my home to pursue my profession. I never forgot where I came from. It's who I fought for when I left, and it's who I came back to fight and represent while serving on the council. You know, we know the Cherokee people need a leader right now more than ever that leads with love. You've witnessed, and I've heard firsthand, of the empty promises and unmet needs to our elders and an unsustainable future for our children. But through determination and hard work and sacrifice, we will bring unity and balanced government to save a beautiful people and a tribal nation, one that serves God first and then our brothers and sisters. Once again, I am Wes Nofire, and I look forward to sharing with you more about myself and our plan here tonight. What on?
Please hold your applause. Our first 3 questions of the night focus on tribal services. In the past 3 decades, the Cherokee Nation has significantly expanded its health services throughout the tribe's reservation. Cherokee Nation citizen Haley Baker from Fairbanks, Alaska asked, what changes or improvements do you envision in healthcare delivery and infrastructure for Cherokee Nation citizens as Chief of the Cherokee Nation? And what would be your plan to help at-large citizens with healthcare needs? We will begin with Ms. Cowan Watts.
Thank you, Tim. So that is an interesting question. When we look at the news and the Cherokee that's coming out of the Cherokee Nation today, it looks like we have this glorious healthcare system with these beautiful buildings. But if you take one step inside those buildings, you know that they are without the providers that we need to serve our people. So we must first identify the people that we need to put into place, that if our HR department is unable to expedite the hiring of the physicians, the nurses, and the other people that we need at every level in our healthcare facilities, and we must address that first. then at the same time, we know by talking to our employees and the people that have left in droves from our healthcare system that we must look closely at compensation and remedy it immediately, that we have not kept pace with the current economy and we are not adequately paying the very healthcare providers that sustain our community and our language. And at the same time, our elected officials have given themselves a 104% pay raise, with tribal council making $10,000 a month and the chief making $30,000 a month. Those things have to end, and we must put providers in those big brand new buildings that someone decided to build with our COVID money and other dollars instead of putting it into the staff needed to serve us. For our at-large, I know that we can go and look under the Affordable Care Act at insurance for the at-large.
Mr. Hoskin, what changes or improvements do you envision in healthcare delivery and infrastructure for Cherokee Nation citizens as Chief of the Cherokee Nation? What would be your plan to help at-large citizens with healthcare needs?
Well, we need to continue making the investments we're making. I mean, think about how far we've come. We're not a tribe that any longer has healthcare handed from the top down. I mean, Wilma Mankiller thought that was a priority. Let's deliver it from the grassroots up. Let's make sure Cherokee people are taking care of Cherokee people. That's why today we've got more doctors and nurses working in our system than any time in history. We've got more access to healthcare than any time in history. You have to have state-of-the-art infrastructure, clinics, to make sure it's worthy of the patients that get served, first and foremost, and the men and women who work and deliver that healthcare. So I'm proud of the fact that we just broke ground on a $400 million hospital. I'm proud of the fact that we have plans in place approved by the council which will replace the Salina Clinic. I am very proud of the fact that we continually look at compensation. It's true, it's a difficult environment in which to compete, but we are competing at a level where we have now more doctors and nurses working for us than ever. We need to keep moving in that direction. For at-large citizens, one of the things we need to work on is what I'm working on right now in Washington, D.C. Lower the barriers to telemedicine. Let's get telemedicine out to the at-large community. Just a few months ago, we impaneled a staff specifically to work with at-large citizens as they navigate healthcare. And finally, we made the opioid industry pay for the damage they did to the Cherokee people, and we're going to put that into healing for those suffering with addiction.
Please hold your applause. Mr. Cornsilk, what changes or improvements do you envision in healthcare delivery and infrastructure for Cherokee Nation citizens as Chief of the Cherokee Nation? And what would be your plan to help at-large citizens with healthcare needs?
Thank you for that. I'm going to answer the second part first. Hello out there to all you folks watching around the country. Our Constitution, which is the foundation, the blueprint by which we govern this tribe, says that the Cherokee people shall have equal protection under the law. That means that as a citizen living in Tahlequah or a citizen living in Tahlequah, Washington, you should have access to the services that are offered by this tribe. That doesn't mean identical services. That means that if we have a program here, we should have a program there that will help you. Now, the way that I will do that is to stop all the wasteful spending. $10 million on a gymnasium in Marble City. I love my folks in Marble City. I love my relatives who live there. But $10 million in a community that only has about 150 people and they need housing? No. So stopping the wasteful spending. A $450 million hospital that we don't need. You go into the clinic that we have right now and you go up on the 4th floor and it is virtually empty. So we can fill those spaces, but we have to have money to do it. So we have $450 million in a hospital we're already committed to, $450 million going to a casino in Mississippi. These are things that we need to stop. And so I will stop those and start spending the money on our health care.
Mr. Nofire, what changes or improvements do you envision in healthcare delivery and infrastructure for Cherokee Nation citizens as Chief of the Cherokee Nation? And what would be your plan to help at-large citizens with healthcare needs?
Appreciate the question. We all know healthcare is a pinnacle to servicing all Cherokees. That's in district and at large, and trying to make that accessible to them is a priority of mine. But first, we have to look at where some of the issues are. Right now, the federal government is insoluble on Medicaid in the next 5 years. That's where we get our funding sources from. There's a lot of red tape up there. In my administration, we have the team and we have the plan to go ensure that not only over the next 5 years we have health care for all Cherokees, but the continuation over the next 100 years. We have businesses and funding sources to be able to make that accessible to all. And I look forward to sharing with you more about that plan, but obviously 90 seconds is not near enough to share that with you here tonight. We're gonna be on the road on Thursday in Jay, Oklahoma. Come see us then and we'll share with you more. Appreciate it. Well done.
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you. Well, growing up at large in Seminole, Oklahoma, I understand the complexities of living outside of the Cherokee Nation, but knowing you belong at home. So we will aggressively be looking for solutions, whether it's a healthcare insurance program or something else that will provide our at-large citizens access to the healthcare at home, where we know we can have culturally appropriate healthcare if we invest in our own people to serve us throughout our hospitals and clinics, because we need Cherokee citizens who are technical staff being there for us if we want to continue the Cherokee Nation for the next 100 years. And at the same time, we know that when they look and say top down, that means that they are going to bully our employees. They're going to pay them the least amount possible. They are not going to honor them when it comes to gender pay inequities and other things. And we have to stop those practices and value our employees. What
Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
You know, several of those up on stage have actually served in office. We've actually voted on things. We've actually had the opportunity to do something. So here's what Deputy Chief Warner and I have done. We've expanded for at-large citizens the denture and eyeglasses program. Back to the idea of what this health system should be. It should be about wellness holistically, mind, body, and spirit. And we should be the healthiest when we walk in. That's the reason we locked down 7% of our third-party revenue just for wellness programs. That's why you're seeing progress on wellness facilities and wellness programs. As far as the size of the community, there's no community too small. I thought a chief was supposed to serve everybody. And getting back to our at-large brothers and sisters, again, we've expanded those services. We're going to continue to do that. But it takes leadership, it takes skills, it takes committing dollars. That's why one of the most important votes I ever took was when I voted to put 5% of business profits into contract health. That's why we have more money for contract today than any other time in history.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I'm glad Ms. Cowan Watts addressed the issue of insurance, because that has been a part of my platform from the day I announced that I was running for chief. The Cherokee Nation has the population, we have the resources, and we have the obligation to provide services to all of our citizens. I'm going to challenge Chief Hoskins, and I'm going to say that if you are offering dentures and glasses, that's only a small number of the people who need services. There are Cherokees out there with heart disease. I know, I had it. I had heart surgery. My surgery was $186,000, and what saved me from the poorhouse was insurance. And so the tribe needs to take a look at its resources, take a look at its population, and provide those citizens with insurance.
Mr. Hoskin, since he did challenge you, you have 30 seconds for a rebuttal.
Well, we have committed historic sums to just that. He's talking about contract health. I mean, that's the reason that we have more dollars available than ever for contract health, is because the Cherokee Nation has put its dollars. I mean, I served on the council with Councilor Cowan Watts when she voted against that 5%. I voted for it. And those of us who have an opportunity to serve, you ought to hold us to account. What have we done when we had the opportunity to serve? What I have done and what Deputy Chief Warner has done is harness the resources of the Cherokee Nation to improve health services. Yes, we have more work to do, but we're doing it. We've got the right strategy to make even more progress.
Mr. Nofire.
Excuse me, I believe I have a rebuttal.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So I think what the chief fails to recall is that in Rogers County and several of the counties up north, they are served by the Claremore Indian Hospital and have been treated as second-class citizens. And from what I recall on that vote, if our 5% didn't go to all Cherokee Nation citizens in the 14 counties, then it wasn't something I could support, and they were unwilling to do that. Widow.
Mr. Nofire. You have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
All right, Woodrow. You know, the pandemic, it took a toll on our healthcare systems. I have a lot of good friends, actually, that left because of the working environment there. We don't treat our people and our employees with the love. And I just want to say right now, I love every single one of you guys, every single one of our employees, every single one of our doctors and nursing staff that went through that, the ones that left and the ones I wish to bring back. And speaking with them firsthand, because I know they were not given an exit interview. I know that the contracts are not good enough. They don't pay well enough, but more importantly, we don't establish the art of love and treating our employees with that and with grace. That's what my administration is going to do, and that's what we're going to lead with. We're going to lead with better contracts, longer contracts, because we know if we invest in you, the doctors, you're going to take care of our citizens. What on?
Question 2. The citizenship of the Cherokee Nation recently surpassed 450,000 people, with 310,000 of those 450,000 living outside the reservation. What services would you work to expand or create for at-large citizens? And what services would you work to expand or create for citizens residing on the reservation? Mr. Hoskin, we will start with you.
Well, here's the big picture. We have expanded services for everyone over the past 4 years. How have we done that? Well, first of all, we tripled the business dividend at Cherokee Nation businesses. That's triple the amount of money that can go into all these services. I mean, that's the reason you've got more Cherokee citizens on scholarship right now here in the reservation and all across the country than any time in history. And it's the reason healthcare services have expanded, because we have people in place that are making sound strategic decisions to make sure the resources are there. You can't just go around every 4 years talking about it. If you have the opportunity to do something about it, you ought to do it. And that's what Deputy Chief Warner and I have done. So with respect to at-large citizens, more opportunities for education. I mean, that's the reason when we made the opioid industry pay for the harm they did, we locked down $5 million in an endowment to make sure the doctors and nurses of tomorrow helping us with healing can come from anywhere in the country. And when we work more on telemedicine, we can make sure to get those services out to the at-large citizens and folks here at home that need to stay home to get their health care. We have worked on things like childcare. It's difficult to recruit a workforce and take care of families if you don't have childcare. That's the reason we've expanded it. We're expanding it into Rogers County. We're expanding, replacing all of our Head Start centers. We are making progress on issues that matter to people every day, working on infrastructure, working on economic development. It takes leadership. It takes developing a business plan, frankly, that will increase revenue. We tripled it in the last 4 years. Let's triple it again.
Mr. Cornsilk, what services would you work to expand or create for at-large citizens? And what services would you work to expand or create for citizens residing on the reservation?
Well, I think the first part of your question is important because we're looking at a population of 450,000 citizens, but we have a whole lot of those people who are not even really supposed to be citizens. I worked in the registration department of Cherokee Nation for 8 years, and I uncovered over 5,000 people who should not have citizenship because they don't have an ancestor on our roll. Again, getting back to the foundation of our tribe, the Constitution, we have people who are drawing money. Chief Hoskin mentioned that he gave out $2,000, not of Cherokee people's money, but of federal government money, and 10 million of that went to people who don't deserve it. Those are people who should not be citizens. So finding money, there's plenty of it in there, and expanding services on both the reservation and off reservation would require a lot of examination of what the needs are. We're going to have to do assessments, and those assessments will tell us where we are failing. And folks, we are failing. As I mentioned earlier, we need insurance. We need insurance for our citizens, not just off reservation, but on reservation. We need housing. I would expand the housing program of the Cherokee Nation so that we have rent to own, so that you don't have to get a loan. You can just walk into a house. If you have a rental, you can walk in, start paying your rent, and you start building equity. Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, would you like to respond to the challenge?
Well, certainly. I think in terms of services, you know, he mentions housing. Deputy Chief and I put forth the Housing Jobs and Sustainable Communities Act. We have repaired or replaced 4,000 homes in the last 4 years. We need to spend another 4 years committing ourselves to that kind of effort for middle-class families, for elders, for people that want to stay here or come home. We have a plan that's working. We need to continue with that.
Mr. Nofire, what services would you work to expand or create for at-large citizens? And what services would you work to expand or create for citizens residing on the reservation?
I appreciate that. You know, we have various different businesses that are located outside of our territory. The funding sources that come back that are made outside of our territory, they need to go back to you guys as citizens. My administration will look to advance investment from those funds back to you guys. If it's made at large, it should go to you guys at large. But keep in mind, in district, this is where home is. This is where our communities reside. This is where the people and the culture is at. So what I want to do is I want to make the services not just great for the few, but great for everybody. Where not only we are a desirable place to live in Oklahoma, but we become the most desirable place to live in America. So that way, when you're an at-large citizen and it isn't working for you out in your state, come on home, baby, because we're going to be here to love you. Appreciate it. We're on.
Please hold your applause. Ms. Cowan Watts, what services would you work to expand or create for at-large citizens? And what services would you work to expand or create for citizens residing on the reservation?
Thank you. So I'm not for sure who one of our people on stage have been visiting with, but it's not the Cherokee people that I've been visiting with, because our Cherokee families, our citizens, are suffering today. So one thing that's common for both in-district and at-large is customer service. We have to eliminate the out-of-state call center or whatever else has been happening at the complex that you call and you can't get an answer from folks, and you need access to the complex. I remember when I started on tribal council in 2003, you would walk through the complex with freedom and joy, and people would be laughing and visiting, and that was exciting, and that's very Cherokee. And that's a very big contrast to today after 12 years of this leadership. Also, I would look at capacity. Both our in-district and at-large have suffered because of the vast increase with the hush money that was given of our federal tax dollars to all of us to quiet down what was happening when they discovered there was $5 million in slush fund of federal dollars being handed out willy-nilly with the wish list paperwork. We need to respond to phone calls and emails when folks, either in district or out of district, contact the complex. You shouldn't have to take a vacation to come and get services done. Also, we need to cut the lead times on registration. It should not be 2 to 5 years. We need to build a national database where we compete for our own people to get rigor in our job market, both at large and home, to bring people
Ms. Cowan
home.
Watts, your time
Thank
is
you.
up. Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, first of all, let me rebut a bit what the council said. I don't know why when she walks in, people aren't smiling and feeling joy. I know that when I'm in the complex, that's what I see. I know we have an obligation to keep people safe.
Please, audience, keep it down.
I know that the call center is staffed by Cherokee citizens, and that's the way it should be. I know that they're doing their level best. Our registration department, it's outrageous to think it's 2 to 5 years. We're down to the months when we've had unprecedented challenges. But in terms of investments for the Cherokee people, we've got to continue to keep our foot on the gas when it comes to housing. We've got to make sure that we continue to expand healthcare. I mean, I am excited about the idea that under our plan, Deputy Chief Warner and my plan for behavioral health, that we're going to scale up our behavioral health system, and we're also going to bring healing to those dealing with addiction. And we've made the opioid industry pay for every single penny of it. The Cherokee people will take it from here and bring healing. But we've got to keep moving forward on those issues. There's a range of issues that require funds. We've increased those funds.
Your time is
Thank
up.
you.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have
Excuse me?
6. Yes.
I believe I get a rebuttal.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Landez. I want to commit to our Cherokee citizens that when I go to the Bell Powwow, I will not have 4 armed marshals around me. And that's how I think of what is happening in our complex. What-o?
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
We have a problem in the Cherokee Nation, and it all starts right there. The Cherokee people come into the complex and they encounter employees who are unhappy, who are afraid, who are sad, and that is unacceptable. We had a gentleman named David Cummingdeer who won a lawsuit, and he won $640,000 in judgment against the Cherokee Nation because this man abused his rights, violated his civil rights, and he still has not gotten paid yet. And he was disqualified because he owed some money to the Election Commission. If they'd paid him, it wouldn't have that problem. So what I want to see happen in the Cherokee Nation are smiling employees. I want to see happy employees. I want to see people who don't worry about being transferred
Mr.
into a
Cornsilk, your
position.
time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, since he directly challenged you, you have 30 seconds.
Well, briefly, when it comes to a case in our judicial system, you don't want a chief who goes in and tells the court what to do. I mean, I took my hand and put my hand on the Bible and swore an oath. I'm not going to do what he suggests and try to put my thumb on the scale. But here's the thing. We continually engage with our employees. I mean, it's the reason we've raised wages at the Cherokee Nation. It's the reason that we've implemented things like health and wellness time. It's the reason we're expanding
Your time is
childcare.
up, Mr. Hoskin. Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yes, you know, under my administration, we have the team and we have the plan, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to have a newly established policy giving out fentanyl shots for people who are in pain. I think we've heard a lot about mental health and drug rehabilitation. Maybe we ought to not try to inject our citizens with something that's very highly addictive. That's something that we do not need to be doing. We need to quit trying to make money off of those who are most affected. And what we need to do is start working with everybody. You know, I've spoken and worked with at-large counselors, and some of the things we've talked about is investing in banking, a Cherokee Nation bank to where we can service everybody. This wouldn't just be for at-large or in-district citizens, it would include everybody. And those are the kinds of investments that I'm going to make with my administration. That includes you guys, the Cherokee Nation citizens people. We love you, appreciate it, and well done.
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you. Our Cherokee Nation citizens are unique and diverse, whether in district or at large. And so we need to look at fundamental foundational programs which will both service at home and abroad and build the Cherokee Nation for the next 7 generations. So one of those things would be a database of resumes so that there's no excuse if we want to find the most qualified Cherokee to serve here at home, whether it's in an official employee position or a board position. We can search that database and be more inclusive of all our Cherokees with no excuses. And that would be exciting to me and serve both in district and out of district, but also enable us to be competitive. I don't want to ever hear a Cherokee citizen say that they will allow being bullied because their only choice is Cherokee Nation as an employer or a provider of jobs in our area. We need to change that so we end the dictatorship that's been occurring the past 12 years. And we have to increase our scholarship dollars also for career services.
Time is up.
Thank you.
Question number 3. According to the FBI's 2021 Elder Fraud Report, cybercrime cost Americans over 50 nearly $3 billion last year. With the digital world continuing to grow and the threat of cybercrimes against the elderly becoming more and more prevalent, if elected, what will you do as Principal Chief to help protect Cherokee elders from cybercrime threats? Mr. Cornsilk, we will start with you.
Cornsilk, please.
Cornsilk, sorry.
That's okay.
Dry mouth. My apologies.
That's a really interesting question. My mother is 85 years old. She gets on the computer, and hi, Mom, she's watching right now. She's had call after call after call from people who say, I have money for you in a bank in somewhere in the Middle East or that sort of thing. And she gets excited because she thinks she's won $1 million. And I have to figure out ways to keep her from clicking yes on many things. A lot of the problem that we have in this area is a lack of training. In order to get our people to understand the internet, they have to have the internet. Now, I know that we've tried to expand that, but those are things that need to be expanded even further. But we have to be able to train our people in order to have them understand what it is that they're doing on the internet. not giving out their addresses, not giving out their Medicare number. Those are all things that we need to be doing for our people to make sure that they are understanding clearly that they are in danger whenever they are on the internet. We have to make sure that they do not associate with people that will be harmful to them. I have to train my mom on that all the time. So thank you all very much.
Mr. Nofire, if elected, what will you do as Principal Chief to help protect Cherokee elders from cybercrime threats?
You know, we're going to work with the Attorney General and the Marshals to have concurrent jurisdiction with federal and state officers, and I already have those relationships built. So stepping into office is not going to be something difficult to overcome, but one thing that is difficult to overcome is our elders' ability to keep up with technology. I know even at my young age, it's sometimes tough to keep up with all the new technological advances. But one thing we have to worry about is we do have to worry about what we're also doing to our citizens. We know that the Gadugi portal seemed to be very good at first, but as we witnessed throughout the past elections, it seems like everybody's being contacted, whether it was the previous state and federal elections or even this current election. So we know that your information out there was sold to the highest bidder, and under my watch, we will not do that. Appreciate it. Well done.
Ms. Cowan Watts, if elected, what will you do as Principal Chief to help protect Cherokee elders from cybercrime threats?
Thank you. This is a great question. And like Mr. Cornsilk, I've had to go to my mother's home to help reset Facebook passwords and rescue things, so I get that. So when we look at this, this is a point in time as a nation where our sovereignty has been acknowledged in a way that we have not seen until today. And we have an opportunity, but this government has failed to act, has failed to put the laws in place that would protect our elders from cyber crimes. When the Gadugi portal came out and they issued our $2,000 in federal tax money back to us, I had crimes reported to me. I wasn't on tribal council, but people came to me and said that people in their family or people in their area had stolen the $2,000 from them and had received it or received their children's without permission. And this administration failed to act, failed to protect the money that these Cherokee people needed at a critical time. So I think it demonstrates that we don't have the laws in place. If you as a Cherokee Nation citizen today went and looked for a codified set of laws to try to determine what the laws were that we should focus on, or if people have violated or upheld, you cannot find that in an easy, accessible way. You cannot search our court system in a way. We are failing our people under McGirt, and we need to act as a government.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up. And Mr. Hoskin, since she challenged the administration, would you run?
Certainly. Well, first of all, the problems that face our elders really rings true to me because of personal experience. I take care of my Aunt Jenny over in Adair County, and I sit with her a number of nights a week. She's got one of those life alerts, and she'll hit it if she needs a healthcare issue or she needs okra. I'll go either way, and I'll go to the rescue. But here's the point. We do have laws in place to protect elders. Just last fall, we held an elder summit and committed $3 million to scale up our elder protection unit. And as far as data getting out, we actually do have laws. I have to take issue with Councilor Cowan Watts.
Mr. Hoskin, your time on the challenge is up, but you now have 60 seconds.
I have to take issue with this idea that we don't have laws in place. We have seized the opportunity under McGirt to scale up our criminal justice system, to upgrade our laws, to put more money into prosecutors. We have a law right now that protects people's data being sold because there's an injunction in place right now against Councilor Cowan Watts' website, which put every elder's name out on the internet, and the law stopped it. But there's always room for improvement. But if you want to see more improvement, I'd like another 4 years.
Cara, since he challenged you.
So what's interesting about the case that was submitted is it ignored the facts on the table, that there was more information readily available under the Oklahoma voter registration database and more. So I find it interesting when it was brought up that they don't have their thumb on the court, when the judge rules with the very brief that was filed initially without even reading our attorney's brief. And at the same time, they did nothing to protect these 5 people because I haven't seen action taken against the state of Oklahoma.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I think it's important for us to remember that when Chief Hoskin says that he doesn't want to have his thumb on the court, on the scales of the court, I don't think that's true. I think that there are a lot of thumbs on the court, and those thumbs are creating situations where the Cherokee people are endangered by our own courts, by our own systems. The case that we're talking about with Cara is voter registration information. It's not something that isn't available to every single one of you who is a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. Now, we know that there was a question about the forms that were used and all those sorts of things, but that case was designed purely for publicity. And it was a collusion, in my opinion, between the principal chief and our court system, and that is dangerous.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to respond.
Well, if the issue is protecting elders, which is what I thought it was, you can look at our track record. You can look at the millions of dollars we put into protecting elders. You can look at the laws we put in place to make sure there's a blanket of protection, not only for those to keep them from being victims, but once they are victims. And look, if I need to rebut the idea that I'm going to protect the identities and the address and the phone numbers of our precious elders, folks, I'm on that side every day of the week.
Mr. Nofire.
Mr. Landez, my name was also brought
Okay,
up.
yes, it was. Go ahead.
Thank you. So I think there's even a bigger issue at stake here. The current administration wants to keep power so badly that they are willing to suppress our Cherokee Nation citizens' voting rights and the ability and access to voting, that they will go to great lengths, not just in publicity to cover up other matters that were pertinent in the news at the time, but also to make sure while they have access to data that you do not, and neither do any of the candidates on this stage. That's a fair government, not what we have today.
Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Appreciate it. You know, we got to put politics aside and put people first. And in this case, it's our elders. We got to make good on our promises to them. Not only do we got to protect them, make good on the promises. So whenever I say I'm going to protect all of our elders, I mean it. And everything in our administration's powers, that's what we're going to do. Appreciate it. We're on.
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you. So when I sat down with a sheriff in my area, he sat and talked about a stack of papers of crimes that had been committed against our people that went dismissed or declined to prosecute. They will never be prosecuted. Now, I don't know if any of those crimes were crimes against elders, but it demonstrates every day that the current leadership is unable and unwilling to protect our tribal citizens in a time when we have more ability to govern and should not only be dealing with criminal crimes and the activity happening, but we should be fighting for our land and water to protect our natural resources. But instead, every day it's a demonstration that they're not willing to step up for us as the little Cherokee people that aren't here for pay-to-play politics. It's unacceptable.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, protecting elders ought to be the high priority for all of us. And at the Cherokee Nation, it is. I'm talking about the staff. I'm talking about those folks in our human services staff that go out when no one necessarily sees them, but they're going out to help an elder. I'm talking about our prosecutor's office that takes people to account for abusing our elders. You know, this criticism about our criminal justice system sounds a lot like what the enemies of sovereignty threw at the deputy chief and I when they tried to take our reservation away, and we stared them down. And in 4 more years, we'll stare them down. We'll stare them down because elders deserve that protection. We've got to continue to scale up our criminal justice system. We've got to continue to adapt, but I'm proud of the fact that we committed $30 million immediately to increase our criminal justice system on behalf of elders and all citizens.
Our next 2 questions focus on Cherokee language and culture. This question comes from Rory Crittenden in Tulsa, Oklahoma. There have been great strides made in the interest of revitalizing the Cherokee language. What more can be done to help those of us who are interested in learning but need to learn at our own pace outside of career and family obligations? Mr. Nofire, we will begin with you.
You know, our Cherokee language is a prized possession. We know a lot of people have struggled to try to pick that back up, myself included. We had it in our schools when I was growing up. My family spoke it around the dinner table on Sundays at my grandma's, my uncles, we all spoke that, and we need to make it accessible to you guys in a way that you can pick it up. And the best aspect we can go to, and we spoke a lot about our elders, is going to them and including them in on this vision that we're going to restore and revitalize our language. That's something my administration won't take for granted or leave behind. As I know many of you guys out there, many of our Cherokee First Language speakers, the people that we are to protect and promote, we're not promoting you at all. I see many of you guys on the social media trying to promote your language. In my administration, we're going to invest in that. And that's how we will make it accessible for all.
Ms. Cowan Watts, in the interest of revitalizing the Cherokee language, what more can be done to help those who are interested in learning but need to learn at their own pace outside of career and family obligations?
That's a great question, because you don't have to be at large to not have access to Cherokee language classes on a regular basis in many of our communities, even inside the Cherokee Nation. So instead of politicizing the language program and isolating some of our language speakers by terminating them because they're United Ketua band or pushing them out because they don't support you as a leader, we need to double down on going across the board to support all our first language Cherokee speakers as well as second language Cherokee speakers. We need to make sure that they are financially able to continue their lives in the home that they live in, to support the families and take the language into their family and the home community where they live. Because without those people, we have lost our language. Now, what's interesting about only spending so much money in Tahlequah rather than pushing it out to our various communities, the other thing that we have an opportunity is, speaking of our codes, are we even established to even look at artificial intelligence and how it might support the Cherokee language and our preservation of Cherokee language? There's a lot of discussion going on, but we have opportunity to go in and dig deeper. When we received $3.2 billion in COVID money, it should have changed our lives. Our streets should have been gilded in gold, and everyone almost should have had their own Cherokee language tutor. But instead, we don't know what we even got for that $3.2 billion. And so we need to dig deep.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up.
I know.
Mr. Hoskin, in the interest of revitalizing the Cherokee language, what more could be done to help those of us who are interested in learning but need to learn at our own pace outside of career and family obligations?
Well, we need to continue with the strategy that we have. And this is not just speculation. This isn't a campaign stump speech. This is actual work. These are real results. I mean, the Deputy Chief and I worked with the council to put an historic amount of money into saving the Cherokee language, and we're seeing results. We had to do it. I mean, our language is our culture. Our language is that chain that links us back to time immemorial. And I know if that chain is broken, it's never repairable. All the money in the world can't repair it. All the other successes can't repair it. It's not going to die on our watch. In fact, it's being revitalized on our watch. We've increased our language programs. We have the Durbin Feeling Language Center, which gives our immersion students a state-of-the-art place to learn and play. They deserve that. Our translators deserve it. Our Master Apprentice Language, which is a promising program to create new teachers for all of our communities, is working. We expanded our immersion program into Greasy. What a glorious day it was to walk in there and watch those kids speak circles around their chief. They may be chief someday. That'll be a wonderful day. And we're putting out community language programs not only within the reservation, but next month we will be launching a language program for at-large citizens. Folks, we're all in this together. We're all on this mission. Everybody on this stage is, in fact, on this mission. We really, if there's one place we can work together on, it's this. But if you want to know where the vision is, where the strategy is, where the results are, it's with my administration, the Deputy Chief, and the talented men and women working in our language department.
Your time is up. Mr. Cornsilk, in the interest of revitalizing the Cherokee language, what more can be done to help those who are interested in learning but need to learn at their own pace outside of career and family obligations?
That is an excellent question. As a second language learner, someone who has struggled my entire life to try to come to a point where I can even string together a sentence in Cherokee, I understand what it means to people whenever they don't have the opportunity to learn that language. I put together a newspaper called the Cherokee Observer. We were the first printed newspaper in the Cherokee language besides the Cherokee Phoenix and the Cherokee Advocate, which it became later. What we can do, I'm an educator, and so what I would do is provide curriculum. You provide curriculum to people outside of the institutions that are out there for them. You provide teachers. You go to the communities. We need immersion schools in the Cherokee language speaking communities. That seems counterintuitive, but it's actually the answer to the problem. You start from the center and work your way out. We have one immersion school in Greasy. That's a great thing, but we need more. We need those everywhere. $450 million to a casino in Mississippi could have done a lot to changing that narrative here in the Cherokee Nation. So I think that, again, it's resources and thinking outside the box.
Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yeah, you know, I'm a busy man, just like we all are. I work multiple jobs, one being on the council. I raise a family and my kids. But what's been missing is you, the people. And my administration has the team and we have the plan, and that includes our speakers. And I've spoken with many of our speakers throughout the various areas that we've been campaigning at, and we have some awesome ideas. Some ideas to be able to bring, like Mr. Cornsilk said, some curriculum. But more importantly, things that everyday citizens can utilize, like a book that has stickers that can go on every single household item with a Cherokee word for it. So that way you can pick it up on your time. Like I said, we're all busy. We all have a busy scheduled life. And we'd like to make that an important in our life, but how do we make that important? That's one way. The other way we'd like to do it, my kids, they sing all the time, and I know songs from whenever I was a child by words. So what we're gonna get is we're gonna work with our fluent speakers to pick up some songs, some rhythms, so we can learn those words.
Mr. Nofire, your time is
Appreciate
up.
it. What on?
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you. There's so many tools that this nation has already created, but we're stingy with them. We have yet to provide the hymnals for the language to be sung to all our community buildings, to the churches that ask for them. When I go to church throughout the Cherokee Nation and I'm visiting with different communities, you may see one ratty hymnal laying around because we can't provide those kind of tools, even though we've got all this money that we talk about. So we need to look at online tools in addition to these physical objects that help us out in our communities learn our language, and we do need to expand immersion schools. We need to go beyond, and I think the second school isn't even operational yet, and the first school that we brag about still has sewage being fixed out here. Right now, you can go look at the heavy equipment. We need to pay our Cherokee speakers, especially our language teachers, adequately. My running mate, David Walkingstick, addressed it head on. We do not pay our Cherokee language teachers enough. And there's another hole missing, our 7th through 12th curriculum for the
Ms. Cowan
Sequoia High
Watts,
School
your
expansion.
time is up.
Widow.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you, Tim. The key to saving this language is to get behind our speakers, and we can do that in a couple of ways. One is we can talk all we want about what we want the result to be, but to get there, we have to create more speakers, and particularly more speakers who can teach. That's why this Master Apprentice program, scaling it up as we did, is critical to the future. It's an investment we made in 2019 that's going to help for generations to come. When we had an opportunity to decide what to do with dollars that were just tribal dollars, not federal dollars, we made the right decision putting those into language programs and increasing them. We made the right decision going into Greasy, and that is an operational school. We're making the right decision, by the way, going into Cherokee communities where our speakers are and reaching out to them to make sure we can improve their quality of life, which is the second thing we have to do. We have to make sure that our fluent speakers who hold in their hearts and in their minds something that's precious, we have to treat it that way. We have to treat them that way. And that's what we're doing through our Speaker Services program, which is lifting them up, helping them out, lead better quality lives.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
We have to prioritize our language learning. I worked in registration for 8 years. We had 3 fluent Cherokee language speakers in that department, and I couldn't get the administration to even consider having classes in there. We need to be starting again at the core and working our way out. The population in California, they want to learn. The population in Texas, they want to learn. They're going to learn a few words. They're going to string a few words together, and that's really about it. We have to create first language speakers. There is a nonprofit that is operating right now that has infants that are being taught that language. We need that at the Cherokee Nation, and we will have that in my administration.
This question was submitted by Jeff Caskey from Tishomingo, Oklahoma. Cultural education and awareness can play an important role in the lives of young Cherokees. How would your administration help to promote traditional knowledge and practices to Cherokee youth living outside and inside the reservation boundaries? We'll begin with Ms. Cowan Watts.
Thank you. You know, that's an exciting question. As the daughter of 2 retired Oklahoma educators, we know, not only because of that, but that my Cherokee mama and our history as a Cherokee people, that education is key to our success as a nation and our future. So we need to look at how we provide online tools for those, because there's a diverse range of school types out there, not just in Oklahoma, but outside of Oklahoma. Or maybe we have international Cherokees, which I know several. So we need to look at how we provide tooling and curriculum that is correct, culturally correct, and appropriate for varied age groups, and not just our adults, that's available online. But we need to double down on the summer camp experiences that are available to our kids in K through 12. Those experiences could be are life-changing, and we know it, but we need to provide a safe environment in those camps so that our families know that when they drop a kid off, that they are going to be safe in that camp, and that they're entrusting them to us in a way that is not only physically safe and emotionally safe, but also that we're teaching them what it means to be Cherokee culturally, competently, and with our language.
Mr. Hoskin, how would your administration help to promote traditional knowledge and practices to Cherokee youth living outside and inside the reservation boundaries?
Well, we have to do that, and we've been undertaking those efforts during my administration and Deputy Chief Warner's time in office. Here's what we've done. Just last year, we passed something called the Artist Recovery Act. We put $3 million into a program that will actually empower our artists, particularly our national treasures, to go out into communities, physically, in person, and I'm talking at large and here at home, to share their knowledge with this generation coming up. I mean, we've got to get behind so many of the folks out there, some of the young people that we know are young artists, young writers, young craftsmen. They can do this. They just need to be shown the best that we have, and our national treasures can do that, and other artists can as well, and that will happen within the 14 counties as well. We started last year a summer language camp, the first of its kind. I mean, we're reaching out to young people to tap into their potential. That's not just talk, that's what we actually did. You know, we do need to utilize technology, though, to reach young people. It doesn't matter whether it's here in Tahlequah or across the country. And just this weekend, I met a Cherokee young man, a teenager, who developed an app for language. I mean, there are young people out there that are doing things that we've not even discovered yet, but we won't discover them if we don't have a strategy to go contact them. And the good news is we not only have a strategy in place to do it, we are doing it, the Cherokee Nation. We've got to continue to have leadership, though, that will increase revenue so we can fund all these programs and reach these folks.
Mr. Cornsilk, how would your administration help to promote traditional knowledge and practices to Cherokee youth living outside and inside the reservation boundaries?
You can't have $3 billion and not do a few things. So the Cherokee Nation has done a few things, but they have to be able to recognize what it is that they're teaching. We have to know what is Cherokee culture. We have to do research. We have to fund PhDs and researchers who are gathering that material and bring those people together and have them present that information to the tribe. We have to provide opportunities for our students to come to the Cherokee Nation, to be around these elders that have this precious knowledge and to learn it firsthand at their knee. And the only way that we can do that is to invest in those kinds of programs. They have to expand. We do some, we've got to do more. And in my administration, that would be a strong focus, would be in bringing our youth from all over the country. I have a supporter who contacted me. She brought her son to the Cherokee camp here, and she was so excited. She was so excited. And then whenever he got here, he didn't have a good time. He didn't learn a whole lot. And he asked me a lot of questions about what he did learn, and it turned out that some of the things he was being taught were Plains Indian culture. So we have to know what is Cherokee. We have to know that so that we can teach it to our youth.
Mr. Nofire, how would your administration help to promote traditional knowledge and practices to Cherokee youth living outside and inside the reservation boundaries?
We are a living and breathing culture right now, right here in this room, and those that are watching, so are you. So we got to invest in you guys and making sure that the basic needs are provided unto you. We need to make sure that we're investing in our ceremonial grounds, in our churches, our people that continually put God first and then everybody else second. We're to love one another. That is the cultural way. That is the knowledge that we are to share. The other aspects of our culture, it's very broad. It is very broad. One of them could be the way that we grew up. You know, my family, we grew up providing food on the table by fishing and hunting. That was the meat that we had. That was a traditional culture way of doing things. It's been going on for thousands of years. These are the things that we can invest in, but we have to invest in you. You are the living, breathing culture, and that's what we're going to do to protect and defend that for this generation and the generations to come. What on?
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Thank you. I think we have a lot of opportunities. They keep bragging about the largest budget ever for the Cherokee Nation. I mean, that's year after year, but we see less and less actually come to us as Cherokee citizens. So we could turn that around with new leadership. We could put people in where we take our education dollars and subsidize them even more for people that want to solve problems. Like my PhD in engineering looked at total phosphorus in our running waters, the chicken litter, the wastewater management. How do we protect our streams? I didn't receive a dime from the Cherokee Nation. I had to look to other sources. But what if we took our tribal money to fund our students, whether they're young or old out there, and put them to work solving our problems with their brains that they have, how smart our Cherokee people are. But also we need to look at our plants and food sovereignty. We're doing little to nothing in that area when we have huge opportunities to learn as Cherokee people about our plants
Ms.
and
Cowan
how they
Watts,
serve
your
us.
time is up.
Widow.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, you know, one of the things that our deputy chief is focused on, and this is why I'm so proud to serve with Bryan Warner, is making sure that culture is viewed in a broad way. And that includes hunting and fishing. That includes our traditional ways in those areas. I mean, that's the reason that he's led the way in making sure those opportunities are available for young people. We need more of that. I mean, the reason that we are exercising our treaty-based right to hunt and fish today is because my administration and the deputy chief made that a priority. And we're going to continue to do that, but we're going to engage young people along the way. We have a wonderful program that helps people understand medicinal plants and traditional plants, and we actually reserve land in Adair County to protect that for generations to come. And when we say that, we're talking about the young people. So we're making investments that are going to ensure that those opportunities are there. I agree, we can always scale things up, but you have to have leadership that will provide the resources to do that. This isn't just talk. We've done it. It's on paper.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, I'm glad the chief brought up hunting and fishing. The governor of the state of Oklahoma decided that he did not want to re-up the compact that allowed us to hunt in 77 counties. So that means that our hunting and fishing was brought back into the reservation. I have visited with several people who are hunters and fishers, and those folks don't know whether they can actually hunt or fish with their blue card. We need to get that information out to them. They need to know that, as Chief Hoskin has said, we have these hunting and fishing rights. They need to know that they can utilize those rights and where they can utilize them. Culture is more than just making a basket. It's more than just beadwork. It's how we live our lives. And we have to know what it is that we do as Cherokees so that we can hand that down to the next generation. Thank you.
Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yeah, we've been speaking about hunting and fishing. You know what's ironic that since 2015, I've been speaking about the problems of the hunting and fishing compact. You know, if the previous administration, the current administration, would have listened to me, even while I was serving on the council, I spoke about the problems. That we have the inherent right to hunt and fish our lands. That is the Cherokee way, that is the inalienable right that God, the Creator, gave us. That's to provide a way and a path forward. It is to something to be taught and promoted. My father taught it to me, his father taught it to him, and the generations link us back to how to survive. That is nothing to be infringed upon, and that's what my administration will work to continually do, is we will work with the state to ensure that they don't infringe on those rights and to make sure that we promote our culture, such as bringing Cherokee history taught the right way in all of the 14 county public schools. What on?
The next question will focus on the tribe's business arm. Cherokee Nation businesses continues to grow their portfolio, including expansion in gaming and diversified businesses. Gavin Holtzworth from Stillwater, Oklahoma asked, in your eyes, what is the next frontier of Cherokee Nation and C&B's revenue stream and why? Mr. Hoskin, we begin with you.
During the last 4 years, we've seen our business operations, which is made up of such talented men and women, so many Cherokees working to make sure that we generate revenue for programs and services, that we've seen it triple the amount of money coming from our businesses to tribal programs, and the rest of it, by the way, stays within the Cherokee Nation in the form of creating new jobs and new investments. If that sort of leadership is where we'd like to continue to go, if we want to triple the funds in the next 4 years, then let's continue to make these efforts. That's the way our businesses thrive. By the way, those businesses are mostly non-gaming. Those businesses are in an array of sectors, so we need to keep diversifying. Again, I'm in the position where I don't have to talk about we ought to diversify. I've overseen it. I've worked with the Deputy Chief. I've worked with our business leaders. We see this in real time. It's the reason that our economic impact has gone up to $3 billion. It's the reason we employ 14,000 people today, and we create about 20,000 more jobs outside of those direct jobs. Our businesses are moving in the right direction. If you want to measure it by do we have more dollars for healthcare and education and housing, cultural preservation, all the other things that matter to Cherokee people, those numbers are up because of our businesses. I'm proud of our businesses. If you want to talk about jobs so that people have a way to make a living, take home a paycheck with benefits, that's because of the hard work of our businesses and our leadership at our businesses. I'm proud to support them.
Mr. Cornsilk, in your eyes, what is the next frontier of Cherokee Nation and C&B's revenue stream and why?
Thank you. Cherokee Nation Businesses is the tail that wags the dog. They basically control the Cherokee Nation. My platform has been Take Back Our Tribe. Cherokee Nation Businesses has donated to this gentleman thousands of dollars for his campaign. Chief Warner's campaign, they have $1.6 million. So when we are talking about business development, we need to start talking about how that business is going to help real Cherokee people. Deputy Chief Warner created a program that helped to fund a man's business in the town of Tahlequah. He took out a loan, he got employees from the Cherokee Nation's Day Work program, and then he made the mistake of exercising his free speech and supporting the wrong candidate. And he was dragged through the mud. his program was closed off, his loan was canceled, his business went under. Now, I believe that we should have all these businesses, but I don't believe that the money that those businesses make should control our government, and it does. Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge.
You know, Tim, some allegations are so bankrupt of facts that it almost doesn't warrant responding, but I'll do it anyway. Folks, our businesses are generating dollars that come back to the tribal government. Those dollars are appropriated by the Council of the Cherokee Nation on the open record. In fact, people up here have served, except for Mr. Cornsilk. We know the process. I'm proud of the investments we've made. I'm proud of the fact that 5% of what our business does goes to healthcare. By the way, since I voted for that 5% in 2012, $112 million just for contract health. I could go on and on.
Your time is up. Mr. Nofire, please hold your applause. Mr. Nofire, in your eyes, what is the next frontier of Cherokee Nation and CMB's revenue stream, and why?
Well, appreciate the question. You know, those who control the flow of money control the government. The people, you guys don't control the flow of money one bit. I've been serving on the council for the past 3.5 years, yet all of Cherokee Nation businesses' financials are marked confidential. They're marked confidential so that way you can't control it. And under my administration, under my watch, we're going to do away with the 17 board members of CNB that the principal chief gets to appoint. And we're going to give them to your counselors. They represent you guys. They're to control the flow of money on your behalf. And if you don't like them, vote them out, vote somebody else in, and we're going to make sure we protect it and preserve it for the generations to come. That's why I need your support and your vote, and that's what we're going to do, is put you, the people, first.
Just a reminder, folks, please hold your applause until the end of the debate. Ms. Cowan Watts, in your eyes, what is the next frontier of Cherokee Nation and CMB's revenue stream, and why?
So we have a lot of opportunities as a tribal government operating businesses that we haven't necessarily expanded in. I know the headlines state that we're doing record-setting things, and they are good things. We need to do that. But how many Cherokee citizens does it actually impact in terms of job creation? Because that's the blessing of being a tribal leader, is job creation for our people to lift all of us up together. And one of those is through working families. So any decision we make should be about you, the Cherokee people. And right now, that's not happening. So one of the things we should do with Cherokee Nation businesses is utilize them to support the incredible small businesses that exist throughout not only the Cherokee Nation, but are throughout the United States and the world, led by Cherokee citizens. In the state of Oklahoma, especially northeastern Oklahoma, 80% of the jobs in northeastern Oklahoma come from small business ownership. During the pandemic, this government didn't ask once what we needed. They didn't offer masks, they didn't offer hand sanitizer. Well, we're trying to keep doors open. They epically held the bulk of the working tribal citizens during the most critical time of our lives where we needed things. So instead, we should take those CNB resources and start tooling them towards empowering our small businesses to expand across the world stage and really deliver higher paying jobs and more jobs that they wouldn't otherwise be able to do. What-o?
Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, we need to continue to diversify our businesses. We need to continue to make sure we expand in other sectors. I mean, we're in IT, we're in security, we're in an array of government contracting where the United States is coming to the Cherokee Nation because we're the experts. And that expertise is being brought to bear to create jobs for Cherokee people and revenue back home to fund programs and services and to create even more jobs. There are more small businesses working for Cherokee Nation today through our businesses, through contracts, and our government than any time in history. And this is creating those jobs that were mentioned earlier. We generate, again, a tremendous amount of economic opportunity. 19,000 jobs in this region means Cherokee families are getting an opportunity to succeed. 14,000 jobs for the Cherokee Nation means the same thing. Taking that revenue and putting it into job training programs, which Deputy Chief Warner and I did the moment we got into office, means that people will be able to take those jobs. And we just increased the college scholarship program so that we can get more folks into education. Let's keep them here to work.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Cherokee Nation is a wonderful organization. I've been involved with the Cherokee Nation for a very, very long time. I've worked for the tribe. I worked for Wilma Mankiller. I worked in the complex when you could walk through the halls of the complex and you knew each other. You could say, "How's your grandma?" Or, "I'm sorry that your uncle passed away." We had dinners in the mailroom. People brought brown beans and cornbread. It's not like that anymore. The problems at Cherokee Nation are that it has become a megalith monster. It has grown too much, and it no longer serves the needs of the people. We have to get back to the needs of the Cherokee people in order for us to become a better government, and that means that we have to start using the blueprint, the Constitution, to get there. Thank you.
Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yeah, and once we audit and expose and bring a balanced government and a balanced business back to the people, and when you guys control it, it gets to invest in you guys. It gets to invest in your districts, build up businesses and revenue that I'm excited to see happen. You know, with the Cherokee Nation still 74% funded by the federal government, keep in mind the federal government that's in $30 trillion in debt. There's no assurances that our sovereignty is safe with that reliance. What we need to do is make sure that our sovereignty rests in each other, our own ability to promote jobs from within, creating new jobs, and that's what my administration will do whenever we get Cherokee Nation businesses back in your hands. Wadon.
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
So when we look at a dying casino in Tunica, Mississippi for $450 million of your cash with a lease, a 25-year lease at $39 million a year, because after we spend your $450 million cash, we don't own the building. And the employees are telling us that we have to remodel it on top of those costs. I'm unsure what they're talking about when they say business diversification in the Cherokee Nation. That does not even speak to the $50 to $100 million spent on the failed or seemingly failed Arkansas casino adventure. Where did that money go for us? I seem to remember in 2011 clear campaign promises that we would have no more casinos, but yet we have expanded the number of casinos inside the Cherokee Nation and outside at a great cost to our people when they are being denied contract health for cancer care. One woman told me her mother couldn't
Ms.
have a
Cowan Watts,
pacemaker
your time is up.
because they were out of money.
Our next two questions focus on tribal sovereignty as well as government-to-government relations. First, with the McGirt and Hogner rulings in the past years affirming tribal sovereignty, what do you believe is the biggest threat to the tribe's sovereignty now, and how will you fight to protect it? Mr. Cornsilk, you will start this round of answers.
The first thing that I would have done is I would not have sold out to the state of Oklahoma as this man did. He was elected in 2019, and for 1 year, he had meetings with the state of Oklahoma officials to hammer out an agreement in principle that would surrender all of our rights back to the state of Oklahoma. Now, he's probably going to say that it's temporary or whatever. We know that those things that we give back to the state are never given back to us. So what I would have done is I would have put in place trigger laws. Those laws would have been, I would have had the council pass laws that would have kicked in as soon as McGirt went into place. We have cities in the Cherokee Nation in open rebellion against the Cherokee Nation. The city of Claremore, the city of Tulsa, and today I learned the city of Tahlequah are invoking the Curtis Act to continue to exercise jurisdiction over tribal citizens. We have to stop that. We have to figure out a way to exercise our jurisdiction over the cities and over our lands here. And so I would have taxation. I would have, oh, I'm out of time. Thank you all.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to rebut the challenge.
Well, he's just plain wrong. I mean, look at the record. Look at what we did when the opportunity in McGirt came down. Look at how we scaled up our criminal justice system. Look how we seized the opportunity to protect victims of crime. Yes, it is a difficult transition when the United States and the state of Oklahoma has suppressed the Cherokee Nation for generations. But under my leadership, we seized the opportunity. I can tell you what I won't do. I won't pal around with the folks that are trying to destroy our sovereignty, that go into the Supreme Court and say, destroy the reservation. I stood against them. That's what happened.
Mr. Hoskin, your time is up. Mr. Nofire, what do you believe is the biggest threat to the tribe's sovereignty now, and how will you fight to protect it?
Sovereignty is given by God, not by the government, not by the state or chief, but by God. But is it up to us, men and women, to protect that sovereignty? And that's what I've been fighting for. I fought for victims of domestic violence whose cases were ignored after the McGirt decision. I stood and knew that there were issues with it. I also stood whenever there was an agreement in principle made with the state. We've all heard about that. I stood to say, hey, listen, there is a way that we can refine our criminal system, but we're going to need to work with people. We're going to need to partner up with people. Doesn't mean that we're always going to see eye to eye nor disagree all the time. So what I did is I took a leap of faith. I said, hey, my citizens trust me to protect them, and I'm going to protect them at all costs to make sure that their safety and their sovereign rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness are protected. It's what led me to run for Congress, to try to expose that, to try to address it, because we know that Congress has failed the Cherokee people every step of the way. And I was not going to do that. And I dang sure won't do that being your chief of the Cherokee Nation. I do have relationships with people, but they do not own me. God is who I've given my life to. That's who owns me. You guys is who I will be serving to protect that sovereignty that God's given you when I'm elected your principal chief. What on?
Ms. Cowan Watts, what do you believe is the biggest threat to the tribe's sovereignty now, and how will you fight to protect it?
So sovereignty for me is about action and our ability to govern ourselves. So when I look at our biggest threat, it's the idea that the current leadership stays in power when they cannot negotiate with our neighbors and the people around us. And that's a serious issue. When I reviewed the 2019 debates, some of the people on this stage even said that they were going to be able to deliver on our compacts, and they have not. Because instead, people in leadership in the Cherokee Nation chose to poke at other leaders across the state whenever possible, using our very own casino money without anyone's knowledge or transparency. Some projections are as close as $50 million on our state governor's race. Whether we like Governor Stitt or not, he is still one of us. And instead, what we have witnessed is the lack of leadership as they attack others throughout the community. And you do not see that from the other tribal leaders who are setting an example about what leadership should look like in Indian country, in our tribes. So when I think about sovereignty, I think about whether we're protecting our women and children. I have too many stories of where this government has failed to act on domestic violence, harassment, stalking, abuse of power. The list goes on. But they'll come after their political enemies, and they'll use our court for that. So the choice is June 3rd.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up. Mr. Hoskin, do you want to respond to the challenge?
Well, with all due respect, and I mean this sincerely, if you want a chief who's going to allow the governor of the state of Oklahoma to go to the Supreme Court and ask them to tear apart the Cherokee Nation reservation, don't vote for me, because I won't do it, and I didn't do it.
Please hold your applause.
There's a great deal more work we need to do, but we are undertaking efforts to seize the opportunities when it comes to tribal sovereignty.
And now for your time to answer. What do you believe is the biggest threat to the tribe's sovereignty now, and how will you fight to protect it?
I think the biggest threats are still external. I mean, look, we know that when the Supreme Court decided the McGirt case, it created an opportunity for Cherokee Nation and other tribes. We had to seize that opportunity, and we did. We also believed there would be a backlash, and there was. You have to have a chief that will stand up to a governor that goes into the Supreme Court and says, destroy the Cherokee Nation. It's not going to happen on my watch because it didn't happen on my watch. Yes, we are the best friends that the state of Oklahoma ever had. We're the best friends that the United States ever had, but we need to be treated with respect. We can't simply agree to something just because the governor says so. And so what you've seen in the last 4 years is a chief and a deputy chief that'll be strong on sovereignty. So those external threats, we still have to be vigilant. Yes, we make relationships where we can. We've got a historic relationship when it comes to Department of Transportation funding. We've worked with the state of Oklahoma on a number of infrastructure projects. We've worked on cultural tourism projects to create jobs. But you need a chief that's strong. You don't have to speculate about my strength. You've seen it the last 4 years. We needed another 4 years.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
I was just catching my breath.
Oh, sorry, sir.
We also need to assert our treaty rights, and we have asserted historic treaty
I
rights.
think that's a minute and a half.
I think there was
Well,
time
you
left
had
on the
the
clock.
challenge to rebut first, and then
Anything else, Counselor? We need to assert our treaty rights. We need to assert our treaty rights. When it comes to our delegate to Congress, our hunting and fishing rights, we need to insist that the United States adhere to every sentence of it. You don't have to guess whether I'll do it. You've seen me do it.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
You know what we've seen this man do? We have seen him violate the Constitution time after time after time. Well, you're not paying attention then. The Cherokee Nation.
Please keep it down.
The leadership of the Cherokee Nation met with the state of Oklahoma officials from 2019 up to the passage of the McGirt ruling. They came out with, this is the best they could do, an agreement that would deprive the Cherokee people of their right to be free from Oklahoma taxation, give all of our rights back to the state. That's not leadership. That's cowering, that's bowing, and that's not something that my administration will ever do in the United States Capitol in DC or the Oklahoma Capitol in Oklahoma City. Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge.
Well, what he said is not true. It's bankrupt of facts. It's outrageous, but don't worry about that. Look at what happened the last 4 years. Look at what happened every time somebody threatened the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation. Look who stood up to those threats. I did, Deputy Chief Bryan Warner did, and I'm proud of that record.
Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yes, you know, the Harder case was damaging not just to Cherokee Nation, but to all tribes that are on a reservation. That was a failure by not trying to protect the sovereignty and our rights that God has bestowed upon us. So what's the biggest threat right now? It's the federal government. The federal government wants to take this land and take it for themselves. Take your rights, try to regulate them, and I am pretty sure that I don't trust the federal government right now with anything. Right? I trust you. We're going to protect it for you. That's what my administration is going to do. What don't?
Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
So maybe it's my perspective as a Cherokee woman, but leadership is not about bullying, hand-wringing, the public attempt to humiliate other people. We have got to do better when it comes to working with our neighbors. The reality is we have mixed jurisdiction, whether we want it or not. And I believe in our tribe's sovereignty. So we must step forward and act as a government to protect our citizens. It is unacceptable for crimes to go unprosecuted simply because folks swear to us that after $3.2 billion in COVID money and a $2.5 billion annual budget, that they don't have the resources and they haven't had the time to work on the things that should govern us. So when it comes to relationships, we need to work harder about building bridges and creating opportunities to work with our neighbors.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up. Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
You know, part of the threat to sovereignty, as I mentioned, is external. And people know my track record. And you know that 4 more years of Hoskin Warner, we will stand up to external threats to sovereignty. You also know that we will reach out a hand of freedom friendship. I mean, that's the reason we have so many agreements across the Cherokee Nation Reservation with counties and localities to make sure criminal justice works. I mean, that's the reason last week we had a domestic violence summit in which we brought together people from other jurisdictions to learn best practices. And that's the reason we're helping our friends and neighbors do what we all must do, which is to provide a blanket of protection around every single person. Now, that takes leadership. It also takes investment. And so the other threat to sovereignty is internal. We have to continue to have the resources of the Cherokee Nation to fund programs, to fund things to protect our sovereignty, to protect people, to create public safety systems and improve them. We've tripled the dividend in the last 4 years, folks. Let's continue that so we can pay for these programs to protect Cherokee sovereignty.
Our final question is, McGirt and Hogner rulings, along with the gaming compact dispute, led to a divisive relationship between the Oklahoma governor and Oklahoma tribes, including the Cherokee Nation. Zachary Woosty from Perry, Oklahoma asked, what steps would you take if elected to bridge the divides that have arisen between the state of Oklahoma and Cherokee Nation? Mr. Nofire, we will start with you.
Yeah. The agreements don't work that we have with the local government. Right now, the Cherokee Nation charges their citizen more money for the same tickets that they would be issuing by the municipalities that those agreements reside in. I've spoken to local law enforcement. They have very difficult time communicating with our great marshals because they do not have a system in place to transfer the data. These are the issues of a result from not leading our tribe the right direction after McGirt. And on the Hogner case, let's talk about that for a second. We did not do enough like we should have in order to prevent that ruling because the Supreme Court saw what was happening. They said, you know what, the Cherokee Nations, they're mishandling that down there. They don't have enough law enforcement. They don't have a cross-jurisdictional agreement that works. And under my administration, that's exactly what we'll do. That's what I've been speaking about this whole time. And I look forward to doing that as your principal chief. What on?
Ms. Cowan Watts, what steps would you take if elected to bridge the divides that have arisen between the state of Oklahoma and Cherokee Nation?
So our people, they just want to know that we can do the job. They want to know that we can show up. And when a domestic violence victim calls One Fire and asks for help, that someone will answer the phone or return their phone call. We can talk in detail about the ongoing litigation in the Supreme Court, the litigation that's already occurred, how we're going to implement it. But at the end of the day, our citizens want to know that when their car is stolen, that it will be prosecuted and recovered. If someone comes into their home and burglarizes their home, that will also be prosecuted. And hopefully their property recovered and hopefully no harm coming to them. No Cherokee citizen should have to worry about their own safety, whether at home or at work or on the road in the Cherokee Nation. And really, that's what all of this comes down to. I take pride in being part of Cherokee Nation leadership, whether it's in the community informally or whether you give me the honor and privilege of being elected to any kind of seat. As Cherokee people, we have high expectations, or we should, of our leadership. And when I look at what is happening, the governor needs to account for himself, but we, the people, have a chance to make sure our leadership is accountable for their behavior on Saturday, June 3rd.
Mr. Hoskin, what steps would you take if elected to bridge the divides that have arisen between the state of Oklahoma and Cherokee Nation?
Well, the truth is we have an excellent relationship with the state of Oklahoma. When you look across the agencies, across the counties, across the towns, the municipalities, we are working hand in hand on a lot of important things. I mean, when we invest historic sums into fixing water systems, sometimes we work with the state to do that, to make sure the money goes further. When we work on roads and bridges that keep us all safe and make sure we have an economy that works, we're working together on those things. When we're trying to create jobs in this region so the Cherokee people, because they're so talented and so capable, can get those jobs, we're working together. But to the extent we've got differences with the governor of the state of Oklahoma, under my leadership, we're going to achieve peace through strength. We're not going to just sit back and let the governor do whatever he wants to the Cherokee Nation. It won't happen on my watch, and I want to apologize for it. But we need to continue to invest in those things that make a great society and ensure public safety. I mean, we put $30 million right off the bat into public safety. We put historic sums into healthcare and housing and economic development. That makes us strong. That's my first concern. My very first concern when I wake up every day isn't pleasing the governor of the state of Oklahoma. It's being accountable to the Cherokee people and delivering results. And I have delivered results, and so has Deputy Chief Warner.
Mr. Cornsilk, what step would you take if elected to bridge the divides that have arisen between the state of Oklahoma and Cherokee Nation?
I'm the only candidate up here who is not a member of a political party. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I would be the first person in the governor's office to sit down with him, look him in the eye, and tell him the Cherokee Nation will not bend. The Cherokee Nation would not be where it is today if Chuck Hoskin's agreement in principle had been successful. I want to give props to Wes Nofire for standing up on the council against that agreement.
Please hold your applause.
That agreement would have destroyed the sovereignty of the Cherokee Nation. It would have given back all of our rights to the state of Oklahoma. Now, the only reason that we are where we are today, and we have a chief who's standing here telling us that he's the sovereignty king, is because that agreement was defeated. It was defeated because this gentleman stood up against it on the council, and a group of Cherokee citizens met outside of the complex and protested that. And we called our council members and we told them to vote no because we did not want that to happen. So yeah, I appreciate what he has done. He's been forced to do it. It's not what he wanted to do.
Mr. Cornsilk, your time is up. And Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to rebut the challenge.
Well, he's just misstating the facts. And facts are stubborn things, and they'll speak for themselves. There was no vote on the council. There was no rescue by the councilman. The truth is we've worked collaboratively from day one with the council and people in my administration to try to achieve what we've got to achieve, which is to make sure we keep people safe and protect Cherokee sovereignty. The track record's out there. The track record's out there. We stared down a challenge to rip apart the Cherokee Nation Reservation. We did that, and we put resources into programs to help people stay safe.
Your time is up, Mr. Hoskin. Mr. Nofire, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
You know, I have to respectfully disagree with that, but I have to also appreciate the support that Mr. Cornsilk said in his previous statement. But not only do I have to appreciate that, I appreciate your call and concerns as much like every other citizen out there that addressed me while I was sitting on the council over the agreement in principle. I wanted to make sure I fought for your voice and your rights, and that's what I did that day. And since then, we've seen a rollout of problems. We've seen that our rights have been violated currently. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we have equal protection under the law for everybody. Every Cherokee citizen needs to be treated equally. That's what my administration will do. That's what our officers will do. They do that every day. They work tirelessly to make sure that you're safe, but they need more help, not only just with more help and more resources, but also being to work collaboratively with those leaders that are also state elected leaders. We have county commissioners who cried help whenever we took much needed dollars to our area and took it and put our Cherokee citizens in prison in Texas where they can't be rehabilitated, where they can't see their families. They're paying their price, but it's up to us to help reform them from the problems that got them there to make sure that they are a well-being person coming out of prison. And that's what we're going to do under my administration. And I look forward to speaking with you more about that on the campaign
trail. Mr. Nofire, your time is up. Ms. Cowan Watts, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
So there is a lot of opportunity today under McGirt. And we obviously have a lot to say about whether or not the current administration has administered our ability to prosecute criminal activity. But there's so much more. We should be out actively looking to protect our waters, our land, our air, the very things that are part of the Cherokee Nation that make us our cultural home. And we don't appear to be doing any of those things proactively. In fact, we're sticking money in corporations to establish what I would consider corporate sovereignty on one of our most important waterways. So we're taking money to give to other people and not invest in our Cherokee people to clean up the water and land where we know we need in areas like Adair County, where they're seeing high rates of cancer and many other things. We know that Spring Creek, for example, has degraded in the last 10 years.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up. Mr. Hoskin, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Well, with respect to protecting the land and the water, we're putting resources into that. I mean, we're at the table as we speak when it comes to remediating the pollution that's been done to waterways in the Cherokee Nation. We're not there by accident. We're there because we made strategic decisions to get involved in cases that would ensure protection for something that really goes to the heart of sovereignty, which is the land and the water that was promised to us when we came here. So those sorts of strategies are effective, and we're going to continue those. We do find ways to work with the state of Oklahoma where we can, but at the end of the day, my oath is to the Cherokee people, to our Constitution, and to protect tribal sovereignty. And I'm proud of what we've done to do just that. The investments that we're making today, though, where we've tripled the dividend and put all of those dollars into these programs I'm talking about, healthcare and housing and an array of programs, that is what really will keep us strong. We need to keep moving in that direction.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 60 seconds for your rebuttal.
Once again, if you have $3.2 billion, you can do something. There's a lot that needs to be done in this tribe in the way of sovereignty, but the sovereign powers of this government come from you, the citizens, and your voice is in this document. This is the Constitution of the Cherokee Nation. This document, and I have gone through here through page after page and found violation after violation of the Constitution by this administration. Sovereignty is not something that we can play around with. It is something we must protect. And that means that we must stand up to the powers outside the Cherokee Nation, but we also must stand up to the powers inside the Cherokee Nation who are endangering our sovereignty. So I would say that the greatest threat to the Cherokee Nation's sovereignty is this man.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge.
Well, again, sometimes an outrageous attack should just be left like it is, but I won't leave it because I'm proud of my record. I'm proud of how I've defended the nation Constitution, asserted our sovereignty. The facts speak for themselves. More than 5 seconds of baseless attacks on this stage. Compared to that is our track record. Bryan Warner track record is investing in the Cherokee people, putting the Cherokee people first. When it comes to health care, we've made record investments. We've increased the dividend. We're investing in housing. That's our track record. I'm proud of it.
Mr. Hoskin, thank you. That completes the question and answer portion of the debate. We will now give 2 minutes to each candidate for their closing remarks, beginning with Ms. Cara Cowan Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Landez. Thank you, Cherokee Phoenix. Thank you to each of the tribal citizens that are here in the room and watching abroad. This is our government, and it's about us on Saturday, June 3rd. It's not about a national political party. It's not about 1 or 2 attorneys controlling the whole tribe. It is about you, the Cherokee people, and your families. So the question is, large budgets, biggest ever, do you feel safer? Do you have more services that you need when you call the tribal complex? Are we doing our job as a government? Because if we're not focused on you and making sure that we meet your needs, whether it's basic calls for registration to enroll the next generation of citizens, or it's domestic violence calls, or the open sewage pipe that is being piped into Spring Creek that was reported and never answered by our environmental services group. If you feel like you are not better off after the last 12 years of failed leadership, then you need to look elsewhere on Saturday, June 3rd, and consider any one of us on this stage other than those folks that are in power today. Because what I see is a few benefiting. Pay-to-play politics down to the level of contract health services. While we have people dying of cancer or not getting the $500 per month that they need for a colostomy bag, that's really happening. Or not getting a pacemaker because they say we're out of money while we pour money into a rundown casino in Tunica, Mississippi that is not going to employ Cherokee Nation citizens without moving them there. My deputy chief running mate, David Walkingstick, and I would immediately turn the chief's mansion into a proper domestic violence shelter with security.
Ms. Cowan Watts, your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Hoskin, you now have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Well, once again, I want to thank the Cherokee Phoenix for holding this debate. This is important. The Cherokee people ought to hear from the candidates seeking this office. This office doesn't belong to us. It belongs to the Cherokee people. You've got to judge us based on our experience and our track record. I also want to thank the people in the audience. Particularly want to thank my family. I said it before. Being chief is the most important thing I do every day other than being a father, a husband, and a grandfather. But I give you my all as chief, and so does Deputy Warner, Deputy Chief Warner as deputy chief. You have to look at what we've done. Over the past 4 years, we've tripled the amount of money that go into programs and services so that these issues that we have to take on with health care, contract health, making sure we create wellness facilities for people, making sure we take on this really difficult issue of drug addiction and not just talk about it and throw up our hands, but put real resources and talent into it. We've got to save the Cherokee language, and we've got strategies that are working. You know, in the last 4 years, we've repaired or replaced 4,000 homes. We need to keep doing that. We've reached out to elders who are in need, and we've extended a hand to them, sometimes the first time they've ever gotten it. We have made sure during the most challenging times that this nation has faced in generations that we were ready for the test. We made sure that during the COVID shutdown, no employee missed a paycheck. We made sure that every Cherokee citizen who needed it got $2,000 payments to make sure in their lives they would have something extra to protect themselves. We've reached out to communities big and small, and we've made investments that are going to make a difference in the lives of the Cherokee people economically and culturally and in terms of their health care and in terms of their environment for generations to come. This is about whether we pass the test, and I think we passed it. I respectfully ask for your vote for me for Principal Chief and Bryan Warner for Deputy Principal Chief. Wado.
Mr. Cornsilk, you have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here, for mostly being polite. And I would also like to thank the Phoenix for hosting this. This is an opportunity for you and all Cherokee people who are watching to get an idea of what it is that we have to offer and why we decided that we would step up on this stage and put our names on the ballot. As I said whenever I started this, Constitution is the foundation. It is the blueprint of our people. It is the representation of our sovereignty. Each one of us are sovereign. Each one of us designate to the government our sovereignty. It is a precious item, and it is being mishandled. This administration has approved a law that says if you spend your own money on a campaign, you have broken the law. Not only that, but you could go to prison. You could end up, as Mr. Nofire said, in Texas with a $500,000 civil penalty. Our Constitution says that excessive fines are prohibited. Now, this has not ever gone to court because nobody wants to challenge it. Nobody wants to face a $500,000 civil penalty. So everybody is being extremely cautious, but that violates your rights to free speech. If you want to support a candidate and you don't want to give your money to any of the other candidates, that's your right. And he has signed a law that says that you don't have that right anymore. And if you exercise that right, you'll go to prison. So I ask you for your vote on June 3rd so that we can control this government.
Mr. Hoskin, you have 30 seconds to respond to the challenge.
Well, it's more baseless allegations, but I will take the opportunity to remind the Cherokee people that in the last 4 years, when there were difficult times, I stepped up, the Deputy Chief stepped up, our council stepped up, and the point is we worked together. We worked collaboratively when there were difficult times. There may be difficult times ahead, but also during the times that weren't as difficult, we seized opportunities to invest in healthcare, housing, and education. That's what the Cherokee people deserve. That's what they'll get with 4 more years.
Mr. Nofire, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Well, appreciate that, and appreciate everyone for joining us tonight. Appreciate the Cherokee Phoenix, and appreciate those who have joined me on stage this evening. We are a beautiful nation with beautiful people in it, built out of love, unity, and balance. That is what we must restore. I have the plan and the team to restore that love, unity, and balance. As a tribe, we know that if one of us falls, 2 will rise up, and if 10 shall fall, 100 will take a stand. I spoke to many of you my entire life, not just lately, and you have spoken to me, and I've heard your words. You say, give us back our tribe, the nation, the business back to the people where it belongs. It's the people's government and the people's business. This election will mark a time in history as the time where the people got their tribe back. My team and our plan will audit, expose, and bring power and the rights not only back to the people as a whole, but your rights to the individual person and your sovereign rights under God to be free. Free of government, free of oppression, free of dictators. I believe historically our chiefs were all warriors. And that's what we need today, and that is why I am asking for your vote June 3rd. I believe in you, trust in me, and let me go get our tribe back to the people, our nation back to the natural order, and protect our families' rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. What on?
WADA candidates. With that, the 2023 Cherokee Nation Principal Chief Debate hosted by the Cherokee Phoenix is now concluded. We thank the candidates for their participation, audience for their attendance, viewers for their time, staff and volunteers for their work, and Sequoia High School for the accommodations. Reminder that Election Day for the Cherokee Nation is Saturday, June 3rd. WADA and good night.